How'd it do? As always, we must first check sound. Because I'm not about to give up this info and shit be fucked up. I hope you guys like the cover art for this. I thought it was actually really good. Yeah, I thought it was actually really good. It looks pretty freaking nice.
The cover art for this, I thought it was actually
Yeah,
really
it is. AF Overdrive. Yeah, man. Hopefully your mic does work, man, and we can actually have a fruitful conversation. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start off with some of the more boring stuff, so to speak, with it, which is just going into some of the resume or going into going through a resume. I actually have one that I have to edit, so and I haven't done it. Really mistreated a friend of mine. It's just been a lot going on my side. So let me get that set up on my side here. Those that I already gave the link to, you can join anytime. I will ask you to hold your questions, hold off on some of your questions until we get to, or until I get through some of the resume stuff. So, like for instance, I have no problem with you asking your questions that are geared towards you. Um, I have no problem with you asking those questions later on, but I'd like you to ask questions that are geared towards what I'm working on specifically at the time until I open it up to say, hey, any and everybody, weapons free. All right. Overdrive. Brother Overdrive, can you hear me? Can I hear you?
Hey, test. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Thanks.
Do
Nice.
you, do you hear like a lot of background noise or anything on my side?
Oh no, your audio is really clear.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah, is mine good or?
Yeah, you're good. I might turn it up on my side. I'm trying to avoid having an echo. I don't have headphones on this computer, so. Oh, and actually, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. All right, cool. That does sound. That's all right. All right.
Nice.
So first one we start off with is a resume review. Um, so as I stated in terms of the rules of our conversation here, we will go weapons free later on, meaning that you guys can ask your open questions or anything that you want that are pertaining to you. That's pertaining to you, and we give you more specific, unique, um, or bespoke advice. But what I'm going to first work on is actually Don 007, man. What's good to you, brother? Man, what's good, man? But what I'm first going to work on is a resume review. So let me get that resume up on my end because I just got to take out some of that brother's information. Actually, while I'm doing this, one thing I should have done. Okay. Share screen. Share screen. I guess I could just share the window. Mm, yeah, share the window. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah. All right, cool. Should get. I'll go to another browser later. Um, so speaking of the cover art, a Portal Beyond is the one that I chose actually. Oh wait. Oh, a
It's
world.
pretty nice. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, this one I thought was pretty sick and pretty much embodied what we're trying to like. Pretty much how how some people see IT, like it's this big golden door, like, and there's a light coming out of it, and that light is actually green because it stands for money. And you have the gatekeepers, so to speak, your hiring managers and HR people that give you phone screens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have all the things that could attack you, the tree of wisdom, so to speak,
Mm.
you know. So there's a lot of stuff to that. Jay Boss. Hey man, if you want to come up on this one, Jermaine is actually a vice president, my former business partner and altogether brother. But yeah, he's at the vice president level. In fact, Jay Boss, let me get you this link, man. Let me get you this link so you can talk over some of this stuff as well. And we got brother Elijah joining right now too. Brother Elijah, what's up, man? I can't hear you if you're saying something, but hopefully you can get that working.
Oh, what's good, man? How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Yeah, sorry to join a couple minutes late. Definitely want to support. Definitely want to get some extra conversation going and a good dialogue.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I know you got daddy duties most likely, right?
Yeah, she's just, walking around here and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely, like I said, want to concentrate on this tech stuff. But I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Getting this industry, getting what we need out of it, and making sure that we're able to provide and live the lifestyle that we want. So, you know what I'm saying? All ebb and flows together.
Yeah, make enough money to pay for a nanny.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey
Exactly.
Jermaine, I sent you the link. It's the second one, the StreamYard link, if you want to join. But we're gonna go through resume review, and I also want you to Jermaine, if you can actually join. Talk about what you've been doing recently with resumes and stuff like that, and a service that you actually use. Also, just to introduce, Overdrive is a gentleman that I talked to in the comment sections of one of my videos. And, we got a discussion going, and I was like, listen, man, let's start a stream. I've been meaning to do this for the longest time. People have been kind of asking for it. So I wanted to start that. Brother Elijah is actually a mentee of mine. And newer brother to kind of the space and some of the things that we talk about. And he's a member of the underdog dev community. And, he's definitely been somebody that, he's a mentee, but at the same time, like, it's going to be scary when, when shit start popping off for Elijah. I hope IT is ready in general. And then Jay Boss just joined, and this is everybody. This is a brother of mine. I call him a brother because you have your friends, best friends, and then after a while, like you elevate somebody to the name of brother, like brother from another mother, but actually mean it. And he was my business partner in my old IT consulting company. He's the one I started it with, and he's actually a VP of IT. You can actually go into your title, but you don't have to talk about where it's from. But your title would be, I don't know what it is. What is it, Jermaine, exactly?
Hey guys, what's going on? It's VP of Information Technology.
VP of Information Technology. So he's somebody that does the hiring, runs teams, was the manager, and then also, got risen to the level of VP within the company. So that's a very important title to have, period. You're right under things like, the C-level personnel, depending on where you work and depending on their hierarchy and structure. But I know some people, put it like that. And he's definitely, the view that you guys see on my camera, he's definitely instrumental in that, foundational, really, and helped me out a lot. And we always helped each other out, but, I think I owe him. So don't tell him that I said that, though. But yeah, if Overdrive, if you came in, give me while I set my stuff up on my side, tell me a little bit about yourself, and we go to Overdrive, then Elijah, and then J Boss.
Yeah, I first found your channel through BGS a couple weeks ago. Actually, he was I think he posted like a community tab. He usually posts that with different channels, and I started watching some of your videos. I was like, wow, this is really interesting stuff. It's pretty really deep, good information with the IT stuff. And I think you had an interview maybe a few weeks ago or a month ago with Richard Dixon. I listened to that, and he was talking about, it was really good. He was talking about his background getting into IT, and he even mentioned being able to get in with, I think he said he had like legal issues, and he was able to get in, and it was just like really inspiring hearing that. And I went through that, and just me in general. I first started trying to do IT really like a while ago, maybe a few years ago, and there were different courses I was looking up, but I just didn't stick with it. I was just like, I would try, do a couple things here and there, and I'll just give up. But I found there's a course on YouTube it's a free course from Harvard. It's called CS50, and it's like really good, really detailed information. Goes through it starts off with C, goes through various elements of just development, and it's the basic definitions of coding and stuff, and it ends up going to Python and React and different things like that. So like I'm working through that slowly but surely going through that, and just like sticking with that, making note cards, just little basic stuff, and so yeah, I think that's like regimented enough to really keep me going, and it's like it has like a really good overview of everything. It's like in the
You
past I
said
was just
that's the MIT free courseware, like CS50, right?
yeah, it's a Harvard, yeah.
Harvard. Oh, Harvard. Okay.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. It's all free. It's really well laid out. They got different assignments you can do. They got a Discord group where people are communicating and helping each other out. A bunch of different lectures and sub lectures with different tools to assist you and information to help you out. And it's just like really well done for something that's free. And so I'm doing that now. I'm a complete beginner. I got a GitHub, but it's like it's bare. It's been up for years, but there's just like the most detailed thing I did on there was I was doing something called the Odin project years ago. I was trying to do that, and I ended up just making like a basic HTML CSS kind of like copycat Google search page kind of deal. No back end stuff, just front end stuff. But and that CSS is crazy, man. That stuff is hard.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Now,
Yeah.
leaving it there, it's like this is the problem that a lot of people in IT when they're beginning start out as, and I'll move on from you, Overdrive. I want to try and keep it brief and make sure everybody gets a chance to talk.
Cool.
Helmet Chili salute. But you talk like you're repeating some of the same things that even some of the stuff I went through with Elijah has gone through, and some of the things that I've tried to help him out with in terms of like pointing him in the right direction and things like that. And a lot of people don't really understand, a lot of people don't know where to start, and that's their biggest thing. It's just like, listen, I want to get into IT, but sometimes the biggest thing is that they don't even know what they want to do in IT or the things that you can do in IT. And it's just like, this stream, I don't know if there'll be a part 2 to this, but there's just so much information. Unless we're going to be here for like, 20 hours, it's going to be a problem. So, Elijah, I see you joined with your laptop. Did you want to take the other one down and bring this one up?
One second. Yeah, I'm actually trying to give me 1 second. I'm just trying to see if I can get the audio to go through my AirPods, and I actually been having some difficulty, so I'm just messing around with it right now. But I have them both up for right now, and then I'll decide. But I'll make sure I'll watch for the volume and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they should both be muted.
Okay.
But,
we'll probably go to you next.
Okay.
In a little bit.
Yeah.
But talking with Brother Overdrive and Elijah, you'll see some of the same things that you were talking about. And talking about like Harvard CS50. What's really nice is that you're starting to see the open sourcing of not of institutional knowledge, and it's mainly because they kind of have to stay relevant. And also another thing is that there's so much what they call technical debt, meaning that for instance, if you went hard and fast on something beforehand, you're going to have to eventually pay that back. So how I like to talk about it is the lack of technical minds, in a sense, technical minds that aren't there to actually solve problems. So now the world is changing to more of a data driven, dynamic, non-static way of doing things, and it's very fast paced. We have to get more people onboarded as quick as possible. So you could be a shit coder, and next you can get a job getting 80 to 90K as a junior. And but I also see where they're looking for a lot more seniors. But with that being said, yeah, Overdrive, man, your position is not so much unique and that's kind of a sad thing. That really is a sad thing because there's not a lot of direction. So, oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, definitely. No, I'm just listening, but yeah, it's I could definitely see that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so Elijah, and thank you for telling that. And Elijah, if you can give us a brief overview of like some of the stuff that you've gone through and talk to us about Underdog Devs, which is how I met you, and it was through brother Richard Dixon that that Overdrive just mentioned. That's how I got into that group.
Oh yeah, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
All right, perfect. So, starting with my journey's a little bit more similar to Overdrive in some kind of in a framework kind of way. Like you were saying, Michael, it's probably something that's more common than not, and would probably all gravitates people towards specifically your kind of work and the audience and people that you speak to. From my knowledge to knowing you, as far as like getting people funneled into the tech industry, right? I'm sure there's a few different kind of routes, but a very uh, a mass majority of us can relate to what was just said. But my story is similar. You know what I'm saying? I was in the Air Force for like 6 years and stuff like that. I was getting out. I got into like web development just because I study economics, things like that. I'm trying to be self-educated, multifaceted just in general, so I can make the best decisions possible. And that led me to get into the tech field and trying to code. I try to teach myself how to code. I feel like the hardest part of it is the mindset and putting a structure and framework behind it. Like when it comes to self-education post school, whether it's college or high school, it's like you never have to learn how to learn. And also on top of that, the way that you learn how to learn is by memorization more than by application and conceptual and concepts, unless you did like some kind of advanced math. And I found out when getting out the military, even though I was able to operate in the world, whether whether I was supervising troops or whatever I was doing, it really didn't translate to the same problem solving skills that were needed in the tech space. And also, I wasn't familiar with learning syntax and different programming languages. So man, I tried different stuff like try to study for 4 hours at a time, try to grit my way through it, try to watch just different YouTube channels, watch tutorials, and those all have flawed methods. One, because just basically just watching tutorials, like you said, like having no aim leaves you lost, and you could be going very far, but if you went 20 miles but only went 1 mile in the correct direction through all your wandering, you're exhausted, and even though you went 20 miles, you only your movement was only 1 mile. So and also I have some criminal things, nothing big, but some criminal things that also make my situation more unique. So eventually I stumbled upon the help of Underdog Devs. Underdog Devs is a program that I learned from Traversity Media, just because I was watching different prominent YouTube coders and stuff like that. And basically what that program is, it's a program that was made. I don't remember the co-founder's name, but made by an individual who was in jail. He was in a program. He was in prison, excuse me. He got into a program that showed iOS development. He learned about iOS development. He was able to create a fruitful life for himself in the tech industry, even with his past and stuff like that. So he created this program to match mentees and mentors together to help people from disadvantaged criminal backgrounds or any other kind of hardship background transition into tech, because he knew all the benefits that it had and wanted to make sure you got that pipeline for other people. So I ended up joining that just do some trial and error, just someone trying to figure out code. Like I said, I built a couple of projects and stuff like that. And I built a little bit more than Overdrive, but pretty much the same scenario. I know how to do some HTML, CSS, know how to do a couple of animation and stuff with JavaScript, but not really understanding what it means to be a programmer. So I actually had a mentor before Michael, and it was some corporate dude, man. And again, this is nothing on him, but I think this is a good distinction to make. And especially if you're serious about the tech world that people may not talk about, but he was a corporate guy, a white dude, more introvert, timid, probably like someone who you think about as your typical programmer. And I told myself, like, I can work with this. I was very grateful to have him. But after about a week, he really wasn't able to speak my language to speak to exactly what I needed. And I didn't feel like his contribution and the value that I could get from him being in my position was wasn't that much different than what I would get from a YouTube video from one of these other people who I couldn't relate to, but gave good general advice. So I asked for another mentor. I was working on my code and stuff like that. And then I fell into Michael. Obviously, Michael has his own personality, and the way that he talks is more geared towards like who I am. I'm more of his target audience and stuff like that. And through our mentorship, which only been going on, I believe maybe for like a month, maybe a little bit longer, 6 weeks, I have been able to make huge strides and things off the relatability. I feel like I got a big brother, an older cousin, who I can talk like, hey man, I don't know what's going on with this coding, bro. Like I've been out here, man, I'm trying to figure this stuff out, bro, and I ain't really getting it. I ain't getting it at all, man. I mean, I got, you know what I'm saying? I got real life going on, or like, you know what I'm saying? I know he was just telling me before how someone was complaining about being a minority and not getting getting that job. He said, well, you better sign up as white then and keep it pushing. And those are really the just the comments.
That was Overdrive.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, Overdrive. Yeah. See, it's very similar experience,
Yep.
man. I'm trying to tell you, but just to get a community of people where I can feel like I'm talking, like I said, to my cousin, to my brother, and not only can we have a certain vernacular that makes us comfortable, but we're still having high level conversations, and we're able to keep that culture and you know, operate in a comfortable space that we're in without losing any professionalism or any real goals. So that's pretty much my experience and stuff like that for sure. And I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. And as we go along, like I said, I'm an open book, and I know I'll be definitely open dialogue between this whole live stream and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know, it's very important to be relatable, right? And that's one thing I learned when I coached you know, younger high school athletes, is relating to them, you know, like, hey, listen, sometimes cursing at them because, and then also explaining like, why am I so harsh? It's like, okay, in a game and you're under pressure, how do you react to it when I'm shouting at you? And you know, it's stuff like that. But then it's like also, you know, using stories and things that we get from our community in terms of the comment section, people that we talk to on a regular basis, you know, talking to Overdrive even in the comment section. And you know, like, yeah, it's like, okay, it sucks that you kind of have to do that, so to speak, but, and I don't know if it totally makes a big difference. I noticed some changes, but then you can never say, hey, listen, is it that I noticed some changes, or is it really because of me like saying that I'm a white person when I apply for jobs? You know, and it's like, oh shoot, oh man, damn it, I shared the wrong damn screen. Let me get this right. Damn, that was poor of me. There we go. Damn. Okay. First fuck up of this the season here. All right, cool. But yeah, you know, and that's like very important that we can actually relate to other people, right? And when we're having these conversations and we're doing these things, because relatability is like thinking about yourself as a sponge, and then you have this fire hose of knowledge. Well, depending on the size of the sponge, they're not going to be able to absorb a whole fire hose of knowledge. Or if you're a container, so to speak, you're going to overflow, right? Like, and then you're going to lose out on some of the knowledge because you've overflowed and like all this information has come out and it's like blah, everywhere, right? And if you do things like change the way you talk to a person, change your cadence, change your structure or how you approach that person, and not only change it from like say something cookie cutter, but change it to something where it is relatable to them. Well, then now them as a container, you've changed the flow of that, you know, knowledge, you know. So if I had, you know, a lake, it could take a fire hose worth of knowledge. Like it'll take a while for it to fill up. It can keep up. But then if you had like say a smaller cup, well, hey, listen, man, you're gonna have to change that to a trickle. So essentially, what I try to do is change it to change my advice and the way I talk to people to meet what they actually can take in. And sometimes I know the first conversation I had with Elijah, I was like, man, I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, I'm sorry about this. I know it's a lot of blah, blah, blah. And I changed that over time, and I learned his pace, and then he learned a little bit of mine as well. But it's mainly focusing on him, like being a good listener to him. So if you're a person that's going to be a mentor at any point, it's not about telling that person the greatness of you as a mentor. It's really about finding out the greatness of them as a mentee. Like, okay, what about you is going to be amazing? What can we capitalize on? And how can we make certain changes? So I think that's very important. All right. And Jay Boss, man, last but not least, my brother. If you can like tell us a little bit about yourself, only what you want to, and then also some of your experience in terms of where you are in your career now.
Yes, and Michael, first of all, thank you for having this platform. So, people like myself and Overdrive and Elijah, nice to meet you guys to kind of speak on with our experiences and with our careers. So appreciate you, my brother.
Yeah,
For that.
appreciate you more, dude.
So yeah, about me, I'll summarize a little bit. I went off to college at first. I went to FAMU for a few years, and I was in a band, and I was into music education, and then I switched to elementary education because I was told there's not enough males in the field to as far as for elementary education and all the benefits. And then I kind of sat down one day and I was like, do I see myself doing this for the next 15, 20, whatever, 30 years? And I had to come to reality that I didn't. So long story short, things didn't work out in Tallahassee. I came back down to Miami, and why I got into the computer field, it was one weekend, and guys, this was literally the whole weekend. Mike, no, I'm into music too, so I used to make beats, and like I currently DJ sometimes, also. But it was one whole weekend where I had a desktop, and guys, just to let you know, around this time, this is probably when like Windows Millennium was out. But I brought a keyboard, I brought a sound card, some more memory, and I just had it to the side, sitting for like maybe a few weeks. And I decided one weekend to say, okay, hey, I'm going to try to figure this out and get everything up and working. So long story short, about that weekend, I was able to install, and this is like with no background knowledge like at all at first. So that weekend, I installed the memory, I installed the sound card, I installed the application I was using at the time for music, even the peripherals and all the cables that was needed to go to the computer. And I was able to get everything working. And from that, it just seemed like it was something that was more natural, something that I didn't really have to think about, something that I was able to do. And I grew a love to it. Like it sort of putting stuff together, figuring it out and getting it working was kind of my thing. So I actually, before I went and decided, my wife was my girlfriend at the time, who taught me into like going to school. I was out there. I actually started consulting with like family first. So I went out there and I was just telling family members like, hey, I work on computers. Let me know if you guys have any issues. I'm here. So I did that for a while, and then my wife talked me into like, hey, if you're going to do this, you might as well start, go to school and start taking a few classes. So I remember, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the A+ class we were in, and that's the first time I met Mike. We were in an A+ class, and this brother was kind of going back and forth with the professor about, so just some things that we were in topic about, and I'm always big on networking. So I was like, you know what? I gotta grab that brother attention. I gotta talk with him because I was consulting already and I was doing business, and I was looking, me and Mike always talk about, how the next 3 to 5 years look. So, I've always had that mentality even around that time. Like, hey, I want to grow this. I want to do more. I need to surround myself around people who has the same mindset as me, or even more, to push me and challenge me. So long story short, I talked with Mike. I think Mike in the parking lot. We talked for like 2 hours or something like that, and we were kind of
Yeah,
conversing back
bro.
and forth.
I could still remember kind of what you and I were wearing that day. Like I had this one shirt, it was black with like mostly black stripes and orange. You had a white shirt with some blue lettering, some blue jean shorts. And Jermaine always talks about this story because I mean it's just how we met up. And yeah, I used to because I already knew some stuff. This was after, man, I had come home from playing football, so this is after 2006. So this is probably 2007, maybe 2007 most likely is what I'm thinking, or maybe even closer to 2008, maybe. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think, yeah, it was definitely rough around that time because it was a little bit before I got married, and this is
yeah.
when I came back. I a few years old, but this is when I came back down also. So yeah, I think yeah, Mike, roughly around that time. So fast forward ahead, I'm gonna summarize some of this stuff. So eventually, you know, with the business and things I was running, me and Mike decided to team up and get together and start consulting together. And um, we were at first, I would say we had some ups and downs, and then at some point things just like start to boom for me and Mike. And the thing I like about our relationship, because I consider Mike is like my brother. I tell people that all the time. The thing I like about it is the way me and Mike look at things is completely similar, and it's kind of hard to find someone with the same passion, the same drive, you know, with that same energy, that challenge each other. So we had that. So, you know, we ran the business. We looked at things. We always went back to strategize and say, you know, hey, we don't want to limit ourselves. We want to we want to just, you know, keep on getting services and keep on getting clients and things like that. So we started learning new things. One thing about me and Mike, when we started going to labs, and Mike never stopped. I was off and on with it, just being honest. But once we go into lab mode, it's over with. Like we went out and we was able to pick
Oh
up
yeah.
more new skill sets, and we was
Hey,
able to
hey,
provide.
I like to call that future money making mode.
Yes, there we go.
Listen, hey, and I want to interject here too. Like Elijah, a lot of things, some of the things that I've seen in you, which is why I always say, hey, listen, man, you're going to be great. I know things are going to work out and it's going to be crazy. Is because Jermaine does the same thing. So like, I'll get something, and you know, Jermaine will tell you like I'll learn it a little bit quicker than Jermaine. But the
Mhm.
part that really gets me about Jermaine in terms of like him is like you gotta. It's scary because he don't know it today, but tomorrow that's a different story.
Yeah,
Like,
and in fact, Mike, I was going to get back to Elijah on that because I heard he made the comment. I know it was on mute, but I just started laughing because I was like, it's been days where I called Mike, and I remember this was like years ago. And Mike, I'll tell him about the funny thing that just happened a few days ago when we had our conversation. But it was like years ago, and you know, Mike was always into networking, and I was kind of catching up, like Mike said. Like so, it's like we both had skill sets in different areas when we first joined. So like Mike pretty much had the networking part like down, and I was like trying to catch up in that area. So I'm like, you know, try to learn VLANs and try to get things going and things like that. And you know, I called Mike and I was frustrated because I'm like, Mike, I started at 12 a.m. because we used to start late with labs sometimes. I'm like, bro, I went to sleep like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was really close, and it didn't work, and I was like, I was angry. I was
man,
like,
hey, listen, if you ain't go to sleep at least 2 to 3 hours or 3 to 2 hours before you started your job just because it's like you was in the lab, I don't know what to tell you, man.
yeah.
I'm not the don't be around me. I will embarrass you. I will fucking embarrass you. I will
Hey,
tell you like you ain't like if bro. Sometimes it'd be an hour before like work.
hey, and the thing that used to get me, like Mike know because we developed, you know, our relationship, our friendship, our brothership, and everything. Um, and I don't know if you had this moment yet, but Mike used to like when I come in all frustrated things like that. You know, he used to be like, you know, Jermaine, you got it. Like you already know what to do. Sometimes we kind of work it out and we talk about it, but sometimes it's like I don't really get the answer sometimes because long story short, he wants me to figure it out, and I get it, and when I did have those moments where I figured it out, it's like I figured why he did that, because a lot of times if you go to someone with an issue and you're stuck, sometimes especially when you self-learning, I think Overdrive or someone said that earlier. I'm sorry if I didn't remember. Um, but especially when you self-learning, when you figure it out and you get into it and you're kind of figuring it out yourself, you get an understanding for yourself, you know, compared to someone that's kind of telling you the steps of what to do, where to go, and not really getting an understanding of what you need to do, especially when you
Yeah,
when you have to go out in the real world and provide actually support for it.
Yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Elijah.
it's definitely funny. I definitely don't want to interject too much in y'all and you guys conversation. I want to say your piece, but yeah, it's funny as you talk, J Boss. It's like I see a lot of myself in you and what Michael brings. And like I said, we've only been doing this for about a month and a half, 2 months. But it's like what Michael brings is exactly what he gets out of me, and you're just putting like words to my journey. Like, okay, now I'm feeling like more comforted. Like, okay, you're good. Because I feel like maybe with you, J Boss, like you're more analytical and more entrepreneurial, and that's kind of what led you to this path. And I feel like that's what my path was. And I feel like as far as Michael, like you're just a real technical type of dude. Like this is just, you know what I'm saying? This is your shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like just hearing how y'all talk to each other, I almost see myself and just J Boss is like, yeah, when you talk to him, it's like, oh, okay, cool. You're a technician, you helping me. This as an entrepreneur, just like this is how you need to just frame it. You got to look at it like this. Like you just need to do that shit. Like you need to take a break and you need to go back up into it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, so it's definitely funny. But even just hearing y'all dialogue just makes sense to like where I'm at in it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like obviously I'm in the beginning stage of it, but like, okay, this is making sense. Oh, I'm feeling more at ease about things. Like, okay, now I'm seeing just seeing how things are going to work out and kind of where I'm at with it. You know what I'm saying?
And I want to interject again and just reiterate, Jermaine is a VP of IT. So you have to understand, coming from where we were, you know, Jermaine being in band at FAMU, and then elementary education. I didn't even know you did that. And then you know, getting into IT, us having like, you know, that initial meetup, and then where he is now in terms of just, you know, pushing one another. Because I would say stuff like that and I'd give him one or two hints, but it was mainly just like he said, so you can have that intimate knowledge. Because once you have that intimate knowledge of how things work, you could go back and forth. After a while, you start talking differently to people, because now it's like you learn a new language, and then you start to learn even the intricacies of that language, the little tidbit, the nuances and everything. So then somebody's just like, yo, when I talk with this guy, it's a whole different dialect or a whole different conversation, and it gets deeper. But go ahead, Jermaine.
Yeah, most definitely. And to kind of continue from there, me and Mike got into business together. We had really great ventures. We even had times where we went out for contract jobs, or just went out for jobs where guys, just imagine this: when you walk in the door, you can kind of feel the eyes on you, and you kind of feel like they're reading you, and what they're reading is completely wrong. And the reason why I say that is because there's been times when me and Mike sat at the round table, and once we started talking, their mannerism.
What's that mouth open up? It was different, baby.
Yeah, that mannerism just changed completely, and it's like these are not the same people that we met when we walked through the door. Same faces, but just different attitude. And I think that just has something to do kind of with not to make it a racial thing, but I just think it's just sometimes we just kind of look at a certain way, which is the reason why, you know, me and Mike always went hard at it, because it's like we always, sometimes we get this presentation about ourselves that we don't know as much as the next person. That's how I'm gonna quote it.
And Jermaine, I will say it is somewhat racial, but it's along the lines of stereotypes, things that have already been kind of cemented into our culture. And It's crazy because sometimes you'll talk to people, and again, Elijah, I talked to you about this yesterday. You know, I could fake a good white guy for a long period of time until you see me. You know, I've had one of our customers, the doctor's office in Plantation, Jermaine.
Yes.
The first time I went to the office and I met them, you know, the lady opened the door and I said, "Hey, I'm Mike, the computer guy." And then you could see her eyes open up like, "Shit, what the? Damn it, one slipped through." like, dang, I thought, but you know, my filters were on point.
Yeah, Mike, you was always you was a lot better than me, honestly.
Yeah, my use of the English vernacular and diction and
there we go.
But you know, it's just like, and then 300-something pound black football player, you know, college football player with glasses shows up to come and fix your computer, and it's just like, okay, you know. But the thing is, after a while, that all went away. It was just like, oh shit, he knows what the fuck he's talking about, or oh shit, he actually just fixed our problem, and these last one or two people couldn't even figure it out. But,
Exactly. And we had a lot of moments like that. And just kind of fast forward through it. So we had Mike used to say like over 10 years running the company, and we had really good, and people always say you successfully opened and ran the company if you get past your first 5 years. So we was able to hit that milestone and pass it. And I know around the pandemic time, I think like when it came, when we kind of decide we was kind of going different avenues, and even during that time, Mike was continuing to scribe, with our client base and some of the skill set and some of even the new skill sets that he's doing today to kind of keep business going. My plans changed a little bit only because I was in the corporate world, that corporate, try to, climb that corporate ladder. So, going from those positions to IT management positions to now VP positions and things like that. It was a goal set I kind of had that took me away a little bit, but I still was able to check off those boxes I need to check off to kind of climb the ladder to get where I am. And I only can say this, guys, like that's what was my foundation to being able to do that is my relations with Mike and run of our company and things that we're able to do ourselves. Because we always said when we get at somebody's job or somebody's business, even if we were working under someone's umbrella, we're going to run it as if it was our company. And that was the mindset I always had, and that would allow me to climb up the ladder. As of today, just we'll talk with Mike. I always told Mike I admire, his love and his passion for, technology, and especially, at the rate that he learns and that, he's going about. I would tell them this though, Mike. I told him this. I can't think about how many years ago, maybe 8-9 years ago. I was like, Mike, you should become a program developer, just because of the way you think and the way that you see things. And Mike didn't see it at the time. He was like, I don't know. I don't know about that. And I was like, no, I see it in you. I see the way when we're doing things, because Mike was actually he's always like, I'm going to say like an engineer. Like he's always take things and say, okay, hey, how can we take these 10 steps and make it one? Like with things that we were just doing. So I was like, wait, like the way you're thinking about and going about things are a little bit different. The last thing I want to conclude, because I don't want to take up too much time, is this is for
no, you're talking about me. Keep going.
This is for Brother Overdrive and Elijah. One thing that me and Mike conversation, especially with our career, one thing that Mike always kind of taught me. I mean, even though I'm kind of like big brother, I'm older, but one thing he always taught me is that a lot of times we get intimidated or we kind of get frustrated with these avenues that we want to take. Whether you want to be, a cybersecurity person, whether you want to get into development or programming, and we kind of look at these things and look at the different syntax, and it gets overwhelming because it's like, okay, what's it doing? This and that. Mike has always gave off to me is that, look, it's all about how you look at it. Nothing's really difficult, because if it was difficult, then no one would be doing it, right? And it just sometimes you got to step back and look at it and just say, hey, start off with, hey, this is something I can get. You may not get it the first day, but you got to start off with telling yourself it's something that you can do. One example I'll tell you, Mike was getting into electron ops, and I was like, I took that same concept. You know what? I think I'm gonna try this out and give it a try without even thinking about what syntax was needed or anything like that. I really just didn't care. I wanted to dive into it, and I just want to keep pushing the envelope forward. And that's what I did. So, and it was kind of good jumping on the phone with Mike, kind of going back and forth. I didn't complete it, but it kind of started out to kind of get it going to where you can kind of click something and it opens and it shows you something. It just, to me, that was like the most joy of it all.
And it's a big thing, like, about really getting in there and trying these new things. And again, like, this is still like, even though we're having this like conversation and we haven't even really gotten into the hiring part, but this is important because you're talking to somebody, myself, who's ran multiple businesses, in like, in a hair salon, computer consulting, and then what's it called? Always try to hustle and get more money and stuff like that. And then talking to somebody like Jermaine, who's also that, but then also has gone even further on the corporate side than probably ever I will. And you're talking to a person who's a VP or has been recognized by his colleagues, his peers, in a corporate company setting for not just being hardworking, but being able to, one, break into IT, two, excel amongst others and stand out, and then three, going to the point where he manages others, and procure, cultivate talent, and or what's it called, uh, train and mentor talent as well, and get the people underneath him to higher positions as well. And like that, like not everybody does that. Not everybody gets to that, no matter the size of the company or what have you. Jermaine stuck around even while we were doing our businesses. Jermaine was doing that during the day, and it's like, to be able to do that, like burn that candle on both, sometimes three ends, because he has a family. It's wild, man. So that's why it's good to talk about this stuff and have these real conversations.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and I would like
Mike,
to just
thanks.
interject.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. All I want to do is add to that. Just have someone who's going through this process and has not got a job and being this type of individual. Me personally, I'm a very strong-willed individual, stuff like that. Like I said, I'm a veteran, kid. I'm like that. But it's like without this foundation, I don't think I would be able to make this hard transition without any formal guidance. You know what I'm saying? Even though I am in school to get a computer science degree, I don't think I would be able to do this prior without all this mindset talking. So I definitely wanted to reiterate that from a person who's currently in this point, and that's really what stands out. The information can't be the issue in the information age. It has to be the leadership, digestibility, and the person who's going to give you relatability and structure and motivation and discipline to, what I'm saying, go to point A to point B. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, to actually make those moves. So yeah, Jermaine, let's wrap up your part of this, and then we'll move into going through some of the resume stuff, and also what you as a VP looks for. And then guys, you can interject. Just try and be respectful for it. Don't overtalk people or anything else like that. And we can have a good stream that helps everybody else that's listening as well. But Jermaine, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just follow through with what you were just talking about with what we look for. I was It's kind of cool that you said that. I was going to kind of get into that because Brother Elijah just was talking about it also around that level of being in school and what for as far as career. I would say, and I would recommend, and I would encourage, not only school, because you're going to learn theory, you're going to have your degree and certifications, things like that. But I would think what you should also do in parallel of that is try to do labs, or try to, even if you start off with like a family member, because we all have either a family member, a close friend who may have, a company or a business, or something that where you can say, hey, let me take some of these things I'm learning and put it like in real life scenario, because what that's going to help you out with, and what it always did for us, and gave us the advantage of, is we came in with that experience. And experience don't always have to come from you getting hired somewhere. It can come from, again, you starting off with that family member, that friend, and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Hey, I know you have this company, and if you get into, web development, like, hey, let me build this out for you, and, test it out and see how it works. They kind of get that experience in, because that's going to help you along the way. Because at times at my position where we were looking for talent and things like that, it was cool to still, have your degree, and have your certification. But what stands out is, you took those avenues and you check those things off, but then you also, had that skill set or had that experience, and we can kind of have a conversation to go back and forth on certain things that you were able to do. And again, it doesn't always have to be under someone's, W-2 impression. It could could just been of, hey, it's a lab or project I've done with a family member. Just kind of starting from that. That experience helps out a lot. Even with training, every job does something different, right? But you having the experience basically says that, hey, at least I have this foundation, and I can come in with the foundation I have, and I can build this platform up from there. So it basically was kind of less training on our end. We didn't have to always go from the beginning with candidates that had that foundation.
Yeah, they took that extra time and invested in themselves. And we talk about this in this space of YouTube that I live in a sense, and frequent, is sharpening your skills, doing more, and doing stuff outside of your work day. And I talk that to other people that Jermaine, who I'm talking about in terms of people that we work with. Yes. It's like, yo, do extra, do more, because then when time comes for you to, put your skills out there, resumes and all that other stuff, it better look right, and that's the whole stuff Overdrive you talked about, Elijah, you talked about putting your stuff on GitHub.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Mike, I've been out of the game for over 10 years with the company I've basically grown with, and just kind of getting back out there and talking with Mike. This is a joke he had the other day, because me honestly, even though I'm at that title, to me the title is still a title. You still got to put in the work. It's the work is what matters, over the titles and stuff. So every time I hear people say, hey, I've managed this, or I got the VP or SVP level or C level, it's not really the title you had, is what you did and what difference that you made when you were there. And that's what sticks out. And that was always sticks out. And having that mindset will always get you, if you do decide to get to a corporate or go to a corporate environment, that mindset will always have you climb that ladder and always be recognized no matter where you are. Me and Mike had those experiences multiple times. Right. Just having that mindset. We already know how to do the work. It's just the mindset.
Yeah. And, so with that being said, we'll move into the next phase of this where we start to go over a resume. But, I make videos all the time, to piggyback off what Jermaine said, though, before we move on, is I make video about mindset all the time. And that is so important, because your mindset will really define how you perceive the world. Talking with Elijah yesterday, one of the things I went over is some old Buddhist proverb, really, do you change the world or do you change the individual? And talking about okay, if a world is made of glass, or if you have to walk over a rocky terrain, do you cover the rocky terrain with leather or do you cover your feet? And it's easier to cover your feet, because to cover the entire world, how much would it take to cover the world or a large path with leather? How many cows would you have to kill? Whereas if you covered your feet, you can actually change your own individual circumstances. And by changing your own individual circumstances, you will change your outlook on the world. It's a lot different shopping for an affordable car, like a Corolla or something like that, or a Nissan Sentra, than it is shopping for, say, a Mercedes AMG or an AMG S63 coupe or something like that. It's a different world. Because even when you get a car like that, that should not be your primary car. Because I've done it where I've had a more expensive car as my primary, and those things break down all the time. But when you're at a certain point where you have multiple vehicles, you have enough money, you have other resources, you don't fucking care. It's just all right, man, just take it in, call me when it's fixed. And I haven't gotten to this point, but I'll send my assistant out to get it. And then also when you have more money, it opens up more doors and gives you a different level of access. And that's kind of the biggest thing with breaking into IT. So let's start with a resume review here. The basic look, or the basic format for a resume that I usually like to do. I don't have my resume up here. We also will go into things like creating a dice.com profile. I think that's important when it comes to getting IT jobs. And this is some stuff that I've talked to Elijah about as well as Jermaine. But in terms of the resume stuff, Jermaine has done something interesting recently. And it's something I've talked about in my past videos, outsourcing certain things, So he outsourced the rewriting of his resume to get something, a more polished, finished product, and get something quicker so that he can actually go out there. But why can Jermaine do that? Because he has the money to do that, and he's a freaking baller. But that's neither here nor there.
Hey, I also, just to add with what you say, I also looked at it as, conversations we had. Like it also allowed me to focus on other tasks while moving ahead with tasks that I'm not actually touching, and it allowed me to go to platforms like Dice.com's a lot quicker, because guys, honestly, when we sit down and we're doing stuff with life going on and everything else going on, if I have to sit and review a resume, not that I won't get it done, it just probably would have taken me a little bit longer. And I was like, you know what? I need to get this out here sooner than I wanted to get out there ASAP. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to someone who does this for a living and just kind of dissect it. And thanks, Mike, too, for giving me that idea. I found someone on the platform and pretty much got it back the day after, and it was amazing.
Wow. So the platform he's talking about is Fiverr.com. It's something that Jermaine put me onto, and we use quite a bit for a lot of different things. But you can go to it's FIVERR.com. Very well known actually now, and I think it's a publicly traded company. But Jermaine really has been using it for years for doing voice recordings for IVRs or what is it? Incoming virtual response or receptionist or something like that.
Yeah, auto attendants, IVRs, the voiceovers. Yes,
yeah, and we used to do a lot of voice over IP stuff back in the day, but don't touch it as much. I definitely don't. But so first thing is first. So starting your resume. So okay, hour in. So all right, a lot of talking. So sorry about that, guys. But I think it's actually very important that we went through and introduce ourselves and our different perspectives on this. And I hope that was actually, I hope that helped some people as well, because we didn't all start off as VPs, engineers, and things, and coders and stuff like that. We just did not start that way. All right, so got Jamal here. He's actually a personal friend of mine from one of my jobs. And, what I start off with is your first name, last name, and then your location. So the reason why you have like your location is because they're always going to ask you this. A lot of people will, if you're, especially if you put your stuff on Dice or some of these internet or some of these job boards, they're going to still ask you this information because all they search for is keywords, and we'll go through keywords a little bit later. But it's good for them to know this and see this, because then they can see if you're local, so they can make other decisions as well, and then start talking to you about relocation assistance if they actually want you to relocate. But nowadays, we're going for remote jobs for the most part because it allows for more flexibility and allows for you as a person to travel the world if you wanted to. Shout out to the Passport Bros. So, for instance, we got Jamal here. So you put your name at the top, and that should be pretty big. And then underneath it, you want to put your location. So you can actually, go towards your city. I tell people don't ever put your full address because it can be used as a there's people out here stealing this information and creating whole identities. And you have to be careful about that when you're getting these calls from, some of these people in India and things like that, and some of these different call centers. It is something that is getting pretty big now. But never put your full address, but I like to at least put the city and the state, but you can just put the state. And if you want, you can even put your country or just your country. In terms of your phone number or contact information, I do put my number on my resume. You do not have to. I at least put my email, so they have that contact information right there at the top. Moving down, objective. So this could be objective. This could be summary. This could be what you're looking for. This could be labeled as desired. You could use whatever words you want to here. Essentially, you want to tell this person or you want to tell this hiring manager that, hey, I'm looking for this job to do X, Y, and Z. So for instance, with that being said, let me bring up my resume on another screen here so you guys won't see it. I apologize. But my resume is actually available on my on that resume page. So on my resume, I have my first name, last name, and then summary of qualifications is my objective, so to speak. And here and there, Jamal he's starting out in IT. He's trying to get into it. And I've done this brother a disservice by not getting to this sooner. So I want to try and do this on stream. I'm looking for a challenging position that will allow me to utilize and gain more knowledge about my particular working field. I'd like to add more knowledge with the experience that I already have. All right. So, like, I might clean that up a little bit, add one or two things. Elijah, we've gone through it and done this same exercise, so to speak. Oh, okay. Is it? Okay. I'm just trying to make sure. All right. Sorry. The screen's like black on my side for whatever reason, but don't worry about it. So, on my resume, my summary of qualifications, it says I have full stack development skills with an affinity for server side data processing and API consumption using Node.js, Bash scripting, and other languages. Now, guys, understand I'm a system engineer, and most of my resume or most of the jobs I'm looking for are for a senior or a back-end engineer, like back-end, like, member or a senior, if anything. And all senior doesn't always mean lead. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So in a past life, I was a network and system administrator with experience in LAN, WAN, WLAN, data and telecommunications, security practices and technologies, as well as troubleshooting approaches. I am a heavy user of open source alternatives to supplement proprietary closed source environments to ensure uptime, security, overall health, while achieving a lower total cost of ownership, TCO. My goal is to never work too hard doing it. And this gets into the objective part. Like, I can take a lot of that fluff out, so to speak. I try to do that as a summary of my career and, what I've done. But I can take some of that fluff out. And again, guys, this is not on the screen. So for those that are joining and not seeing this, my goal is to never work too hard doing a repetitive task, but work extremely hard to automate a task. And what that does is shows my mindset and what I like to do, and how that the tasks that I'm doing, like, or what I invest my time in, is to do something that I can automate later on. I write code to make jobs easier, streamline my department's processes, and make my colleagues' lives better by allowing them to work on tasks that really matter to them. My ultimate goal is to propel and accelerate the growth of my employer. So that shows, loyalty or future loyalty in, working with the employer and things like that. So that's my objective, right? From here, again, this is a person that's just getting in. So Overdrive, this should be you. Elijah, this is a little bit with you. Elijah is moving towards UI, UX. So that's your user interface, user experience. That's your front end stuff. But a lot of front end people can go to back end, things like that. They make pretty things work, essentially, is how I like to describe UI and UX, or coders. So in this case, knowledge, skills, and abilities. So you start to go off, like, you talk a little bit about, before you get into your experience, I like to give people examples of my work. So if you're a coder, this section might be filled with a whole bunch of links to GitHub and different web pages that you've worked with, right, or worked on. So this is where things change up a little bit depending on what you do. So for Overdrive, depending on if you're going for a NOC position, so a network operations center technician, or even a SOC position, security operations center technician. Gabe, hey, I said a SOC position, and Gabe A shows up, brother Gabe. So Gabe A is actually a manager in, he's a security manager, or a manager of cybersecurity. What's up, brother? What's up, man? Gabe, can you drop what you actually do? That would be great. But Gabe actually works in cybersecurity. He is a manager of his department, and I think he's doing that for a large consultancy. So there's some of these large consultancies out there, man, that do, like work government contracts, local and federal government contracts, and things like that. So you talk security, Gabe A shall appear, like freaking Candyman. But yeah, if you can talk a little bit about what you do, Gabe, and let me know if you want to link and talk about this so you can come on up. It'd definitely be good to have you along with, people like Jermaine and stuff like that are higher up and are hiring managers as well. Yeah, he's like, sure, I'm a consulting manager in cybersecurity. So, we got people that are in this space, known as the Black Manosphere and everything like that go through this and would be hiring some of you. And I'm actually going through that right now, going through trying to hire, quote unquote, my own boss at some work that I'm doing. And it's tough, you know, like you have to go through these resumes and then you have to figure out if this person would not just be a good fit, but can they actually do the work? And then you have to figure out if they're a good fit through the screening process. So in terms of the sections of resumes, you guys can actually copy this in terms of how it looks. You can actually go to my resume page, which is Tree Star System. Let me put that in there. Tree Star Systems .com/resume. So that resume page, you can actually go there, and then there's a link that shows my resume, has all my information on it. I have no problem showing my information. My phone is always on mute, so even if you guys do call, it doesn't like really bother me or anything like that. And this stuff is already out there on job boards. And one thing I do want to go over, as I said earlier, is going over things like dice.com and how to put that information out there. Alrighty. So in this case, this is a person that is breaking into a network operations center technician job. If you're doing cybersecurity, it's a little bit different. If you're doing coding, where you're doing UI, UX work, if you're doing, say, front-end design work, you're going to have a portfolio, and it might have tools like Figma, Figma, using things like where you have a Figma storyboard where you have all your components broken up, and you can actually show the visual or clickable visuals and flow diagrams all in, you know, a browser. And that's something new that I'm actually like learning and seeing, or being a part of, somebody that actually works that. And he's like the lead for the UI UX design team. And then if you're doing coding, you're going to be talking more about your GitHub. So having your GitHub repo. As you can hear, I haven't mentioned LinkedIn, and I don't plan on mentioning LinkedIn because LinkedIn does nothing for me personally. But LinkedIn would actually be great for somebody like a Jermaine or Jay Boss, and him being a VP of information technology, or even a Gabe A, being a consulting manager in cybersecurity. LinkedIn is good for them because, in a sense, they want to work with other people that can they could be the boss of, in a sense, right? Like they could be managers and things like that. Me, I'm the person that wants to do the work, and that's why I ask, you know, one of two questions. When people join in IT, I'm jumping around here. Yeah, LinkedIn is lit. So I'm not a LinkedIn person, but LinkedIn Learning is lit. So if your company does get into LinkedIn Learning, use that, and, you know, use up whatever credits they can get. You can get from that, because you can get a lot out of LinkedIn Learning. But you know, with LinkedIn, you know, some people swear by it and they, you know, they have a lot of jobs. So that might be another avenue, and I am definitely lacking on that. So Gabe, let me know if you want the link. I can drop it so you can actually talk to that a little bit once we get to that portion. And so if you're Figma or something that shows off your front-end design work, your front-end design portfolio, this is where the knowledge and skills and abilities come in. GitHub. And then if you're a person that works with maybe algorithms, math, or anything else, you might show some Python stuff. You might show some Jupyter Notebook. You might show some NumPy work, or work with machine learning and things like that if you're into that. Again, that can also be in GitHub, and that could also be in other like tools that are out there. Right, for sure. Feel free to drop the link. I'll come through. All right. Yeah, let me drop that link now. Guys, I'll get you guys in here to talk a little bit. So I appreciate you guys muting up here. So there's that, and so essentially, this is where you show off. I like to use this as a show off point, right? So he doesn't have quote unquote much to show off, but there's stuff here. You know, like this guy worked in previous experience. He worked work for security companies and things like that. So now he wants to join into tech. So in terms of experience, let's move on here, and then we can move on to getting into Jermaine talking about it, and then even Gabe A when he comes up. So I want to make room for that. So experience, 365 data centers. Gabe A, there we go. Speak of cybersecurity, and he shall show. So thank you for coming up, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, man. I will get an introduction from you here in a little bit, so people can know a little bit more about you, and then also your channel. I don't think I have you as a moderator, but I'll put that in there.
Absolutely.
And then you could drop a link to your channel, because his channel is Struggle Security, I believe.
Yeah, that's it.
Struggle Security. And like, you know, it just shows the human side of working these different jobs and these different positions and just saying, hey, listen, man, I don't know everything, but I'm here to learn and teach as best as possible and get through the struggle, so to speak.
Absolutely. And like the tagline is normalizing struggling in cybersecurity. So that's a biggie of mine. Normalize it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like, even if some of the guys, when I did a lot more of my Obfuscate streams, I apologize for that. But when I did some of my Obfuscate streams, okay. When I did some of my Obfuscate streams, you guys would see me struggle to work on a component or get something working. And, you know, it'd be hours. And I'm like, why doesn't this code work? Why doesn't this for loop work the way I want it to? And then sometimes it'd be like, listen, man, I can't do it right now. We'll get back to it. And then I'll come up with a solution or something like that. But it starts to show that, hey, you know, guys at higher levels that are doing this stuff, we still have problems. All right, so here, experience. This is where we go into your experience. The problem with this person is they don't have a lot of technical experience. They don't have institutional knowledge or anything like that. They have no certifications. All they have is they were a security guard, and then they got transitioned into doing more of this stuff. And now they're like, I got a taste for it. Now I want the money, you know? So in this case, he worked with CSC, like I think it's like customer support center, site technician, perform an array of functions, working between two data centers, Fort Lauderdale facility and Boca Raton facility, this is out of Florida. After coming in at an entry level as a CSC, I have to work on that. I moved on to becoming a site technician, working under the site director as a site tech, and I did everything that I did as CSC agent plus facility responsibilities. So this guy had to go around, check every hour or every, I think 4 hours, where he had to check all the different facilities and then make sure the ACs are working, the battery packs were working, and then there weren't any beeps or any like signs of problems, fire. If anything popped up, he would have to deal with that. So you can see that he has like a very short list in terms of experience because he worked for this company and then, or he worked for this company and then started working for this company who he was contracted under, and pretty much they just kept him on and he just stayed and started doing more advanced stuff.
Do you know what type of role he's going for?
So in this one, he's going for a network operations center technician.
Okay.
I did mention that earlier, and I did mention and that's okay. See, you can tell a hiring manager when he's looking at a resume because he's going to start asking what role is he going for, because you can tell in terms of what, you know, like, all right, cool, you're gonna like tailoring your resume to fit that role.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. Absolutely, because I think that the paragraphs are cool. They give a good description, but that sounds more like what you would communicate to somebody verbally. You know, having highlighted bullets, the fact that I think you were even mentioning that you're going through several resumes where it makes it difficult to read through all that, right? So highlighting your major responsibilities and what you were able to accomplish there would probably be more of a better bet for him to go for that role.
Yeah, and then also another thing, and Jermaine, I do want you to jump in here in a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Another thing is when you're doing this stuff, you're talking to a person that's gone through maybe 10 resumes that day, and that's if they're the front runner and they're dealing with the recruiters, and there's nobody else as a barrier in between them or anything like that. So it's like it's a blessing to see that, hey, it's shorter.
Yeah.
But, if you could talk about this and some of the things that you've gone through.
Yeah, what I like to add, Mike, what I was saying earlier, like with someone like in this instance, Jamal's, where he's trying to get into in the networking position. I'll also look at, and that's some good information Gabe that was sharing just not too long ago. It also depends on what he's applying to. So I guess what I would look at, the jobs that he's applying to fits with his experiences that he have. Like, so if anything, if he doesn't have that much experience in what he's going for, or he started doing some of those tasks within his current job position, how I look at it is like, is it an entry level position that's available that he wants to take on? And then let's switch gears. Let's say he wasn't at a company that basically allowed him to work on some of those things. I'm going to go back to like what I said earlier. Like, if that's something that that he wants to get into, then make those opportunities for yourself. Like again, we all know, I'll go back again, family members or maybe friends and things that may have companies and things like that, and may not have the right proper things in place. A lot of companies are like that. We learned that too, Mike, in the past with a lot of companies that we consult for. They don't have everything in place. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to get at a certain role or position at a company, then make those opportunities for yourself to start to do some of those things for maybe some of the smaller companies, so that way you build on that experience, so that way you can communicate, because 9 times out of 10, when you're speaking with like someone that's hiring in, like if I speak with someone, especially if it's something that I have back end knowledge in, then I'm going to want to hear some things, or I'm going to want to hear some scenarios. I'm going to want to hear some things or some words to let me know that you actually know and understand what you're applying for.
Elijah, we talked about that, man. Have a story to tell, and I'll say one more thing here in a second, and I'll let Overdrive and Elijah talk about this too, and kind of start to, as people getting into it. But having that story to tell and being able to say, okay, hey, listen, I went through this. Another thing is, to Jermaine's point, is crack open a freaking book, dude. Start doing your labs. Jermaine used to always tell me, he's like, bro, you got better stuff in your freaking garage than some of these companies do at their, like, where they're making, good money per every year. Like I had a whole data center with like, a full rack of servers, AC unit, all types of shit going on in my house or in my mom's house. And my friend used to call it Mama's House Hosting. And I used to have all this stuff so I could learn. If somebody's not giving you the opportunity, give it to your fucking self.
And add, he went heavy into power assumptions also.
Yeah. This is freaking. There's a lot of stuff I used to do, man.
But it's like, but again, it's like the passion. Whatever you're getting into, added to what Mike said, those labs, crack open those books. Like, especially these days, it's just a lot of resources out there where you don't technically have to. I would say schooling and certifications is one thing. Those it's even some stuff myself I need to build up and get more in certain areas. So I'm speaking to myself as I talk, but again, just me. I guess what always stuck out to me of someone with that experience, because I've talked to people on both sides of the spectrum and dealing with on the management level or hiring level, where someone, and not to take away from school, because you still need that to grasp and get understanding and theory and knowledge. But I've spoken to candidates that did the schooling for it and had somewhat of a concept of what needs to be done, but they just didn't have that real life experience. And 9 times out of 10, when you put someone in a platform where they need to perform and they never quite experience real life scenarios, it's a little different than someone who has.
Right.
And that's without a degree difference.
Hey, Gabe, you see what I got on the screen? I'm sure you had to go through some of this stuff yourself.
Yeah, man. I never purchased the physical assets though. But I would use like simulation tools like Packet Tracer. I would use what's that other one called? GNS S3. That's kind of how I did it, because I didn't want to overburden, because sometimes some of those kits only go up to a certain, I guess, level. So some of them would be good for CCNA, but it wouldn't be good for CCNP or CCIE. And I'm like, I don't want to get stuck with equipment that I can't get rid of that's huge power consumptions. But a lot of times these days, virtual or cloud type of lab infrastructure is really the way to go if you're really trying to get spun up pretty quickly to be able to kind of get your hand on the keyboard experience. So at least that's what I've experienced. Yep.
So dealing with like Cisco stuff, especially like if you're again, this is the lab stuff. I bought a couple of these kits over time, or bought different equipment and made my own. The problem with things like Cisco Packet Tracer, which is what Gabe said or mentioned, that used to have some bugs, and I'm sure it's probably better now. Also with GNS3, getting actual your iOS firmwares and things like that to make certain things work. So there are benefits to it, and then there's pros and cons to it. So one of the cons of actually having this stuff here besides the pro of like, okay, you can connect this and work with the physical interface and deal with the physical problems that come along with this. But the virtual, you might have to like change passwords and all that other stuff, which you can run into simulators as well, run into with simulators as well. But one of the cons is power consumption, as he said. This stuff is loud, depending on like how you're starting out. Yeah, Gabe knows. So things like that. But crack open a book and get a freaking lab kit, man. Some of these are fairly cheap and they sell them like all the damn time. Sometimes they sell the rack and all this other stuff. But it allows you to get into like working with the physical side of things.
Yeah. And I was going to even say, as it concerns some of that experience and that story that you all were talking about, I think that it's really important for people to learn how to leverage what they've previously done in order to kind of sell yourself for the next role. So for that individual, that previous resume that we saw, he worked in a data center in the security section, right? I think that a lot of times within Knox and SOCs, there are physical security components to cybersecurity or to network operations, right? So this person might have a very good understanding of what's important as it concerns physical security capabilities, and he might be able to sell it in a story to say, hey, I've learned all the physical stuff. I want to go ahead and get more into the operations, to the technical aspects of cybersecurity and network engineering, right? So I think that leveraging some of that previous experience, he could do really good with that. And two is also selling. If you don't have the experience yet, right, and you're interviewing for roles, definitely sell yourself as a lifelong learner. Sell yourself as a learner, saying, hey, I don't have the experience now, but I've learned all these things in the past, which have allowed me to become successful at my current level. Now I need to learn more going forward. And I think that this role will provide me that experience. Stuff like that. I think that can really help. So leveraging your previous experience and selling yourself as a learner are two really big things that I look for during interviews.
Yeah, and also one thing that Gabe just exhibited is also being charming.
No, man. I'm silly.
Pause. No homo. Sorry. No.
No, you good.
But being charming and saying like, and being able to think on your toes and having answers like, hey, listen, I don't know that, but I'll do work so that I can actually brush up on that skill or acquire that knowledge. Like they like to hear intelligent answers like that. Some people want an empty jar, and then some people want somebody that can pour into others. Gabe, you were gonna mention something?
No, absolutely. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. And that's a very important thing. Jermaine, your thoughts on, talking to candidates that may not be, have a lot of experience, but, they're telling you a story. What are some of the things that they can do to, get past the wall that is Jay Boss?
For me, I would agree. Like what Gabe just said was pretty powerful. You kind of just take what you have and kind of, in a sense, sell yourself on it. I'm just always big on. Honestly, with me, I was always big on the experience. As far as the learning, it's as far as experiences, it's not like you have to be an expert at it, but at least kind of having some sort of foundation, at least. Like so that's always stuck out to me. As far as being continuous learning, what rings in my ear when someone says in an interview that I've been working on this, or I've been working on that, and it just laughs like that always stick out to me, because we all decided to be in this field where continuing education is the thing. Like it's never going to stop. Like, so you can't get comfortable with saying like, hey, I know it. This is where it ends. Like, no, like if we continue labs and things like that, and you continue working on projects and continue working on things, and Mike, those are the things that sticks out to me in those interviews. Like, what are you working on? I like to hear some of the previous things, and, just kind of add on what Gabe said that they have done. With previous companies, or even what I mentioned earlier before with creating some of those opportunities. Mike, a lot of people that I've even went out and mentor sometimes, or even talk with, to the level that you're doing. I've always shared that with associates, and I think we both have. We both have those talks with individuals where, we always mention it's not that you have to do what we did and try to open up your own company and kind of consult. But create those opportunities. If it's something that you want to do, don't let anything stop you. Why? Because that's going to help you out. Just think about where you're trying to go. And a lot of times people struggle with where to start with. And you said that earlier. And a lot of time it's just kind of as easy as that. Like, put yourself in that place. And then once you start in that place, whatever you're doing, depending on the position that you want to be in, then that's the point you start with. See what's there, see what's missing, see where you can add, and then crack open those books, get a few of those training platforms. They're all out here. It's a bunch of resources. So it's like it's really no excuse for anyone not to kind of get some of the skill sets they need coming through the door. Now, again, I would say you don't have to be an expert ever, but with me, what stick out is if you at least have like some type of foundation and you're doing labs and stuff, that will rings in my ear.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things, I'm just doing something on the other screen. One of the biggest things is also trying. So with that being said, Overdrive, man, sorry about that. I know, the older heads have been talking. But what are your thoughts so far in terms of like this resume review? Maybe some of the issues that you ran into, and then we'll go to Elijah.
Oh no, I don't. You don't have to apologize at all. I really appreciate you guys coming up and sharing your experiences and giving that knowledge out. It's really good to be able to, especially for free, because you guys could be charging me for this. Being able
No, we're gonna charge. I expect to check later. I'm just playing.
No, I'm about to say, speak for yourself, young Grizzly. No, I will be sending an invoice.
Oh man!
Hey, that's how you know you're talking to a consultant.
Hey, I'm gonna switch the game on y'all from a consultant level. From a corporate level. Your payback is just to kind of get to where you need to go. That's the payback.
Oh, so benevolent.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Man, speak for yourself. Man,
No.
I'm after that.
I love it. So yeah, Overdrive, man, what are your thoughts so far in terms of the resume review? What are some of the things that you've seen on your own resume that you might maybe change now? Or before we get into some of your more your questions, but like in terms of just resume stuff, what are your thoughts? If you have
as far as that, yeah, I'm so far behind. I'm still learning, but from what you guys are saying, it's I think one of the things that really stuck out was the idea that you really got to focus on experience and what you can bring to the table, more so even than a degree, because that was one of the things that was kind of had me worried. Like I do have a degree, got it years ago, but it's not relevant to tech at all. It's a business degree, and I was worried that was going to hold me back from getting in the door or whatever. But from what you guys are saying, it's really good to have that working knowledge and some kind of skills, something you can dig into and discuss with the interviewers, and that counts more so in a lot of ways than just putting a degree on your resume or whatever. So that's really good. And another point was just you were saying, I believe it was Jermaine was saying, to abbreviate the resume somewhat, and a lot of this stuff that's on here would more so be discussed in person, and it's good to just have those bullet points that just stick out. They can just hone in on.
It was Gabe A that mentioned it.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, and that's a big thing because they start seeing it. Another thing that I want to point out here is that you're seeing it from two different people, that are hiring managers, even myself included, so three. But sometimes what it is a story that you have to tell. You're telling that to appeal to their inner nerd, or to appeal to that earlier technician or person that was getting into IT, and they're like, wow, I had to go through that too. Richard Dixon, man, what's up, brother? Definitely want to hear from you. Let me know if you want the link. It should be a little bit earlier on in the chat. I can't pin it. Earlier on in the chat, so definitely check that out, man, and join us if you can. Richard Dixon is the person that got me into Underdog Devs. I love what it did for him, And you know, I'm trying to, you know, help out wherever I can with that, especially with brother Elijah and anybody else that I'll mentor in the future. Um, but yeah, so with that being said, brother Elijah, man, what do you think about some of the stuff we talked about with the resume, and also some of the work that you and I have done? You're on mute. That we have done on your resume and your body of work and portfolio.
Nice. Yeah, so I've really taken in a lot of things that you guys said, and I do have questions, but because me and you don't work on the resume so much, I don't have as many questions, but I'll definitely go through that, and then kind of more just what you guys were talking about, like adjacent to the resume, or more of the things that really hit with me. But as far as the resume, I think something that's important is just efficiency, and getting that real tangible knowledge of what you guys are looking for. A lot of times as people trying to break in the industry, right? We're very selfish and self-centered in our view, because we're in the beginning of our journey. It's very juvenile. Well, I want this job. I want to do this. I put in all this work. I did this, but it's like, okay, you put in all this work, but like, what did you do with that? Or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's like what I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? So I think just in general, like to keep that frame of mind will really help as an overall, like something that will just really help us be effective in our resume. And I think that is very, very important. Like how me and you talk a lot, Michael, with just like mindset things. It's just like even just a little shift of perspective can really take you a long way. Just 1 degree can totally change something. So to me, it's like that's something I would very harp down on. Like, it doesn't matter how hard I work. I mean, we all know, me and over are beginners, and you guys are been beginners. It's a lot of work that you do. It's a lot of uncertainty. But guess what? No one gives a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to be very frank,
Yeah.
it's like you need
Right.
to step outside yourself. You know what I'm saying? Get. You know what I'm saying? When you're in it, you can kind of act like a babe about it. Like, get out your head, figure out
Right.
what the men want, because you talking about grown men money and grown men careers. Think about that, and just make sure you just realign yourself, and make sure you always have that kind of driven mentality towards what can I offer them, what would they want to see
Right.
out of me, even with my deficiencies. And that's just super, super huge. So that's the first thing I want to acknowledge, because like I said, I know what it's like to be in the trenches with it and just think me, and just hearing being mentored by you, Michael, and just hearing what you guys say. I feel like that is a very pertinent theme that needs to be explained and pushed out there, and that's something that I'm definitely going to hold on to. And then as far as actually into the resume,
Hold
as far
on.
as the structure.
Hold on, Elijah, 1 second. Let Gabe get in because you want to interject with something. And
I apologize about that.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
was going to say one thing. I was going to say one thing to kind of compliment or more add to something that you're already saying. I was going to say, as it concerns looking at your resume and looking at, I think one of the major things that you need to understand who your audience is, like who's your initial audience for that resume. In many cases, your resume is just to primarily get you past the HR filter, right? So the HR people are the ones that are doing that initial evaluation of your resume. And then after that, it gets in front of the hiring manager. And that's where you need to come with those stories. That's where you need to come with that experience. Of course, you need to have all the pertinent experience and information on there, but understanding that your audience is an HR person initially, that really kind of boiling it down to just the highlights of what you've done in your career that align with what's actually right there on the job description. If you can tailor as much as possible to the job description, that'll get past HR individuals very, very quickly. And then you can win over the hiring manager after you get past them. So that's just another little piece there.
Yeah, Gabe, you actually beat me to it, bro. I was going to actually intercept and talk about that, like just kind of depend on what's out there. And speaking about your resume, I know there's something that Mike probably talk, Elijah, with you about sometimes. But when jobs are posted, you may have to edit your resume a little bit according to that job. And along with Gabe is saying, those keywords that'll kind of come up on the HR level to saying, hey, we're looking for a candidate that can cover these things, to make sure that those keywords are actually on your resume. And then again, repeating what Gabe said, just those stories of when you do sit down and talk with, that hiring manager, that kind of have that available. Like, again, you heard two different ways of going about talking with a hiring manager, from Gabe and from myself. Like, again, for me, everyone is going to be somewhat different, is what you'll see. But again, for me, I will always recommend, set yourself up like to be a different, like, 'cause some people be like, what's, you get that question, what's different if we hire you, or what's different what you could bring to the table compared to all the other candidates. And like, you'll hear that sometimes. And to me, I'm always big on like, set yourself up to where you need to be at to go through that door. And it's not, it doesn't even have to be on the level where you know it all, or you're expert at that position that's posted, but you're basically working at that position, and that you can, come in and continue to work at it. Because that's just what I love to hear personally. Like someone that says, hey, I've been working at this. I've implemented. I've heard stories of people having things done at home, and their things out for like small business stuff like that. So those are some of the things of why I said earlier, why I was recommended on this call, or this live session of stuff to get done. Because like when we hear stuff like that, it's like, hey, though you may have, and it's just different levels, right? If you did have a previous job where you were doing that, okay, that's fine. You can show under a W-2 or another employee that you did it. But if you don't have it, in this case where the Jamal resume, where you may not have that skill set, then those are some of the things that you can use to kind of get through the door and give you a strong presence without having, a history from another employee. I mean, that my personal thoughts.
Yeah. And so, Elijah, continue on, brother. I think you had another point after that, but it's good to get those, what's it called? Get those other perspectives on this stuff. And I think you actually you brought up a really good point. It's not about you. And then Gabe A brought up another good point, getting past that initial screening, which may not be a technical person, but you kind of satisfy their needs. And then you also keep it simple as well.
For sure, yeah. And even with that information, I just want to thank you guys for interjecting in that, because even then, that this is what I'm extrapolating from the conversation. So obviously that's something that's obvious, that you have to go through an HR person first. But again, that wasn't getting through my mental. So now that's even something I'm going to check for. Okay, again, a piece of HR person, just so you could get an opportunity to tell and sell your story to the manager. So that even breaks it down to a little bit more nuance, which, what I'm saying, same framework, but even more detail. So yeah, that works perfectly. And then as far as the resume, like I said, me and Michael worked on this a lot already, and we revised mine. And basically the things that we did as far as what stood out is like how he's explaining was the structure and framework of these type of things. I think one thing as far as like the objective part, when you believe you're talking about, it could be like objective or desire or whatever, that part.
Yeah, your work summary, if you will.
Yep, the work summary. Like I think that's important. Like that needs to be what it is, and then everything else needs to be technical education. Like I said, I think the main thing is like get what needs to be on there, and everything else, like say your little piece, and then everything else should be just catered towards that job application. And even the fact that sometimes you have to tweak stuff and make sure that it hits those keywords and stuff with certain jobs in order to make sure that it goes through that filter. Outside of the resume, though, some things that you guys were talking about, which are kind of things that I kind of were more sensitive to, because like I said, me and Michael's been working on my resume personally, was that using platforms for education. And something I did want to ask you guys was, what platforms do you guys recommend? And I guess for me personally, I'm not sure what Overdrive's trying to do as far as technically in the tech space, but me, I'm a front end. I'm going for a front end developer. So, do you guys have anything to where like these are good, or just anything at all? Because I feel like even for me and for anyone on this call, that'd just be some good information to have.
Yeah, you guys can. I always like Udemy.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Udemy is a good one to reference to for education.
No, man, forget that leak code. You got to leak code till you die. That's all. No, that's kind of how they sell it on a lot of these different like Reddits and blinds and everything. But I don't know. I know Cold Wars also has challenges that allow you to kind of evaluate your progress. So if you have a certain status or level on Cold Wars, you can also put that on the.
So guys, well. just to frame this or to add a little context, Gabe A, again, he's a security or a cybersecurity manager for a consulting firm, or a manager of cybersecurity for a consulting firm. So what he's talking about is from the security perspective. And yeah, if you could talk a little bit more to that, what is a cybersecurity person? What would you like to see in terms of this knowledge and skills and abilities? What would you like to see there? And
I
that,
guess it depends on the level and it depends on the role that they're going for. So many times I'm looking at a couple of different things. If they are going for things like offense, so typically you can break up cybersecurity roles into two different categories: that of offensive cybersecurity or defensive. So that's like the red team or the blue team type of people. Offensive people are people who do like penetration testing to evaluate systems, networks, devices for vulnerabilities and being able to provide recommendations to what that is, right? Or people who do reverse engineering and all that type of stuff. If I'm looking at an offensive security person, I'm looking at what you call to see if they have CTFs, capture the flag type of events that they've been a part of, if they've attended certain conferences like Black Hat or DEF CON, if they have certain certifications that align with those things through like SANS or Offensive Security Institute. I'm also looking at what personal projects they might have. So if they have like a GitHub account, they might have some different tools that they might have developed, whether it's C#, whether in Ruby, whether in Python. Those are some of the most popular ones. On the blue side, it's a whole different thing, right? That's like network security architecture, people who have been in certain industries like the financial industry or industrial industry, if they have experience there, if they have experience with tools for security monitoring, things like Splunk, if they have experience with utilizing SIM solutions, security incident and event management systems. Those are some things that I'm looking for there at a high level. But the coding stuff is completely different. So
right.
Yeah,
So I mean, so that's a little bit on the entry level to sorry, this is a question. Is that entry level to advanced? Like what level when you're like what happens at the higher levels even?
At the higher levels, you mean like managers or like
Oh, sorry.
or are you talking
What
about
you
like
said
architects
was
or in
with what you just said, what level was that? Was that entry or
I would say entry to senior,
okay.
probably entry to senior. So somebody who might be coming in as an associate to somebody who might be like a senior architect or senior consultant type of level.
Okay. And then what do you look at as senior would be more advanced? What would be advanced / expert, that would take your position? You know,
Right.
they want to go, they want to be the next Gabe. They want to be Gabe B.
Well, it's like, so whether you've been able to lead teams or lead engagements, whether you've been customer facing, you have to have report writing skills, some level of presentation skills. Speaking at conferences, that's a big thing. I know that really propelled me a lot once I started speaking at some industry level type of conferences, and be able to translate technical things into digestible chunks for C-suite individuals. Those would be some of the high level skills that I would say for that of like manager or above levels.
Yeah, and it's like when people want to, it was a mentor day yesterday. I had like 3 different mentor calls yesterday. So, but my main one is of course Elijah, and then the other 2 were just like other people asking about this stuff. But in terms of, I almost forgot my answer or what I was going to say. Oh yeah. So in terms of when I ask people when they're getting in IT, I ask them, do you want to be a manager or do you want to actually do the work? And some people are like, well, what is that? I mean, like there is a difference, and yeah, like Gabe talked about, like, being able to translate this stuff, doing talks and being able to translate this to the vernacular of a C-level personnel or a VP or something like that. VPs, Jermaine could talk about this. VPs want numbers. They need metrics, or even C-level people. They need numbers and metrics. They need stuff that they could put in Power BI and show graphs and how much tickets you've processed and shit like that, right? Where
Yes.
your low level. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. It's
Yeah.
I laughed a little bit when you said that, because if someone wants to know the difference, it's like sometimes it's like in management and Gabe, I'm not sure if you can attest to it or not, but it's like in management or senior level, you look at it like it sucks sometimes because it's a bunch of meetings. Besides getting metric work and besides delivering reports and presentations and come up with strategic planning for the department and budgeting, just depending on what you're in or what you have to to cover. It's
Mhm.
I say it's such sometimes it's just a bunch of meetings.
See, I would say that. So, like the sweet spot, and I was looking for that for a while. The sweet spot is being able to do is to be able to do both, right? Doing the
Right.
technical and also doing the managerial things. I mean, it's to the point where I know in my firm, I'm literally doing both for some things. So I know I'm on one engagement where
Yeah.
I am the technical lead for a group where I know the service, I perform the service, and I'm delegating different tasks and responsibilities to other individuals on the team. But I'm also getting my hand dirty and doing the work myself. But there's other things where they just want me to come into a room, sit down, hear what they have to say, and then me giving them recommendations from what I've done. So I think consulting might provide a level of having the both technical and the manager stuff. But that at least has been my experience is where there are some things where you can do both, where you can kind of be a technical manager. A lot of like FANG companies like Facebook, Amazon, what are these? Meta, all these guys, they actually have a role that's very popular called TPMs, technical program managers. And they tend to do a bit of both, where technical and management type of roles. Yep.
Yeah, and shout out to Izaz. Is Izaz? I don't even know how to pronounce that properly. Miguel. It's like, hey Grizzly, where do I submit request to get you as a mentor? This motherfucker's got my number. Get the fuck out of here.
What's going on, Miguel? Actually, Miguel worked for the same company. He's actually the IT manager. Was promoted not too long ago. And getting back to what you were saying, I think a lot of we work for a smaller company, so it tends when you're still in it and you're getting your hands dirty, those tend to be come off as great leaders because they don't lose focus of what's going on. Because sometimes when you speak and you go to organizations and you try to report things, it's very important to hear the people that's still out in the trenches that's actually doing the work, because they're coming to you with those problems and things like that, and you have to be able to relate to them. So being able to still kind of get your hands dirty and still seeing what's going on out there, you can relate to them, and you're mostly on the side kind of fighting that battle with them, and
Right.
and accomplish what needs to be done. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and like as I said, if you want to do the work, so or back to that line of questioning, if you want to be somebody's manager, get a degree. If you want to do the work, get certifications. And that's like how I put it simply, because that gets you on the track of where should I start. All right. And Gabe, you wanted to say something? I wanted to probably switch over to overdrive after.
Nope. So we can go straight to overdrive. I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, no, I me too, man. And like these are the younger guys that have the questions. So overdrive. Any thoughts about what we said, and we can go to Elijah after that.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know about that. I knew that a lot of those project manager positions were less technical, but that you're mentioning the technical project manager, I never even heard of that. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. And one of the things that I was kind of wondering, just in general, was because it seems like there is that separation between IT, the networking, the cybersecurity, and like software development. It seems like that kind of is what goes on. And then there's people like you, Grizzly, who you do both. And I was kind of wondering, from what I'm seeing, it seems like there are more of us, more Black people in the IT side of things. And I was just wondering, is that true? And it also kind of seems like maybe it's a little bit easier for us to get into IT more so than the full stack kind of side of things. But I was just wondering if that was true or not, or what you guys thought about that.
Okay, baby, you want? Okay, Jermaine, go ahead.
It's true. I mean, I'm gonna be transparent with you. It's true. It's more of us in it, but I'm gonna make this statement. You're gonna still have to make sure you stay on top of your game. You're still gonna come off, or you're still gonna work 10 times harder, and that's just my personal experience. Like I've always been just as a reminder of not what affected me personally, but just kind of I always remind myself of how we are perceived sometime out there, and I don't try to give off that energy, and I always try to make sure that I stay on top of my game. So
I
that's
agree.
just kind of being fully transparent with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think also to your point, overdrive. I think that it is common. More African Americans are on the IT side because a lot of those roles are very, I guess, quote unquote, easy to get into. So many times you would see a lot of us within IT help desk roles, but there's nothing wrong with help desk. But help desk, you can be answering phones, you can be servicing tickets, you can be replacing hardware. It's less of a it's a developed skill, but in the, I guess, the tech world, it's considered some of the more entry level to beginner type of roles, and you do see more African Americans there. As you go higher and higher within roles, you see less and less of us African Americans. I know
Yup.
why. And a lot of times, like you were mentioning before, a lot of us are not on the development side. A lot of us are not developers. A lot of us are not coders. We don't get into those type of things. Many times you have to come to the table knowing a language of some sort, some way to do some
Man,
applications.
sometimes you gotta come to the table knowing a shit ton fuckload, like a whole
Facts.
Thanksgiving feast worth of info.
Right. But in many cases with IT help desk roles, you don't have to come to the table with too many skills, right? You might just have needed like a CompTIA A plus certification. Nothing wrong with that one, but it is considered a like almost absolutely entry level type of certification for those help desk IT roles. So I do agree with your point. Yep.
Yeah, like this is a crayon, like some freaking Dora the Explorer. Like A plus is seen as that, but you need to know about computers or what the components of a computer, and then build on top of that knowledge. So you have to do that. Like
I see.
Elijah, man, your thoughts so far, man? All right,
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. Yeah, but one thing I want to say is I definitely appreciate all the knowledge that you guys are giving and stuff like that. Like I said, it definitely really helps us kind of put things in perspective, just as far as like where I'm at in the journey, normalizing the journey, and also just, what I'm saying, give some things to think about. I know one thing as far as for me, one reason why I picked this career field, as well as why I carry myself a certain way. I'm 29. Like I said, I have, I was in the military for a while. Stuff is that it's important to represent Black people in a certain light and show that we're capable, because it's not like we can't do things, but it's like we haven't seen enough examples, which normalizes it and normalize the struggle of progress. You know what I'm saying? As Black people, it's like we're familiar with the struggle of surviving, but like, okay, how can we already have those type of things within us? How do we now use that in order to thrive? So I just want to put that out there. But as far as getting back to as far as coding, as far as this conversation stuff, something else I wanted to point out was doing projects for family members. I know something that me and Grizzly talk about a lot is like, okay, well, how do you pick what projects to do, and what about when you get exhausted, especially on the software, on the front end development side? He's like, man, pick stuff that you're passionate about, pick stuff that you don't mind doing for hours at a time, and you start seeing the sun go down and come back up and stuff like that. So one thing that I'm going to take from that is my little sister has a photography business, and I'm going to build her website and stuff like that. And obviously that being my little sister, one, I'll be able to actually get a live website deployed and stuff like that, and actually have some credibility under my belt, as opposed to just these mini projects I'm just doing for myself. And also I have an extra incentive in order to get that done. And if she can generate real revenue from that, now I got real numbers and tangible results that I could put in there, even if they're not at a high level. The framework's there. So I definitely really appreciate that. And that's it just helped implement that me and Grizzly has already talked about. And then another thing that I thought was pretty good was how you and J Boss talked about using Fiverr to outsource things, because I know that's something else that kind of made me hesitant in order to work on my own projects. I never feel like I'm good enough, obviously posture I'm just going through this, but also just like, man, it's okay not to know everything. Actually, that's an amateur way of thinking anyways. And what you more need to do is do you trust yourself to find those resources and then do the work that you're able to do and still get that product out. So that's just something for myself that I kind of took from that when I just heard the whole Fiverr and outsourcing thing. How can I use that for myself? I could probably build bigger projects if I was able to outsource part of it and stuff like that, if that's something I want to do. And let's say I did spend a couple $100 just to build a full application or something of that nature. Would I be willing to make that investment? And me personally, yeah, I would, for that experience in order to get that job that's paying 60 to 70,000. And then the last thing I wanted to Or last thing that I had to say was, as far as for myself, I do have a criminal record. I was like I said, I was in the military. Just some silly stuff happened where I got a felony for essentially like a cop tried to not have me go in the club. I bit him on the finger, something silly, never did any jail time. Then I went through a nasty divorce and I got domestic violence for like disturbing the peace. Essentially, just it was a bunch of messiness. So, anyways, I got some two silly charges and stuff like that. I don't have that much experience outside of real world experience in the software development space. So how would either one of you guys, how would you guys sell yourself if I was about to talk to like an actual manager? If you guys can give me either some tips on that, or even if you could just do your own scenario. Like I said, I think that unique perspective would be appreciated on my end. And also, like I said, I know these are things that maybe other people who come across this video may be in a similar situation or relate to in one aspect or another.
I would say this, Elijah. I'm very passionate about your situation. I actually have a younger brother who's been through the criminal justice center also. I just think that what the system has in place is not fair at all. I never try to come across of judging or holding that back. Some companies do ask for it, but to me that doesn't make a person. It's like you say, we've all done things. We're all young. Nobody's perfect, and that's so I'm really passionate about that. As far as I will go back to some of the things that I've shared earlier with you, Elijah. Like if it's something that you're looking to go into, and you don't have much background or you don't have much experience working with like an employer, or as far as what you're trying to get into, create those. I'm big on this because I'm sharing this and I'm going to keep on repeating because it's my personal story, right? So I've always, like at the beginning, I don't know if you remember when I told you about me putting things together, dealing with my desktop and getting my music software going and installing, just like basic, level stuff around that time. But after I did that, the next thing I said is I start going to family members saying, hey, I work on computer systems. Like always try to give yourself those opportunities. And if it starts from like, I think you mentioned something about, was it you? And I'm sorry, was it you? Our Overdrive. Someone mentioned something about their sister having a photography company.
Yeah, that was me. Yup, exactly.
Okay, so like start from there, like because you can use that as and add that to your portfolio. Not only that, that's going to continue to give you experience, especially if it's something that you're building for your sister, and that's something she's using out there to conduct business. You can build that as your portfolio, and then that's one of the stories that you have. Like if I was sitting down and I was looking to hire for what you need to do, just having that story and telling me that story where you were able to develop a site, and we're able to go to it, and you're able to show me some of the front end functionality of it, and show me a little bit of the back end of what it does. Like that story within itself is powerful to me.
I
I
think.
appreciate that insight, bro.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that young Grizzly's path is almost tailored exactly to you. I mean, if you go to his website, he shows that he is on Upwork. He has a GitHub account. He applies to different work. A lot of times, those don't require any level of background check or anything, where nobody will be in your business. I know when you go with a corporate route, many times you have to do like a background check and all that type of information, which you might find some barriers there. I would say skilling up, providing projects or doing projects, being able to show that in some portfolio manner, and
Mhm.
really doing your own thing, right? Going and finding your own customers and finding what their problems are and providing solutions to those yourself, rather than going the corporate route. I think that you could be very successful in that.
For sure, for sure. I appreciate it.
One thing I
I'm,
want to
oh, sorry.
add. Oh, hold on. Let me. I want to add this too. I talked to an employer about Elijah and his situation. And one thing they said is if you have a record, the problem that they find is a lot of people want to hide it because there is a negative stigma to it. Like even though you're supposed to spend your time, do your time, and then you get rehabilitated, you're still looked at as negative. That scarlet letter, so to speak. And for some reason, or in some cases, it is warranted. It is there for a reason. And then in other cases, you are a different person and you are quote unquote better or better off or have a different behavior pattern. and you've changed positively. But one thing that a lady that does a screening, she says sometimes the biggest problem is when we see it after the fact and you lied about it and you didn't say anything about it or anything like that. You didn't mention it. So you have to kind of fit that in there. And that's where the charisma and charm come in, where you can start talking and you got that mouthpiece, that game so tight, they don't even give a fuck. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's important to have a little bit of charisma when it comes to this type of stuff, because then you could actually say, wow, I think this person is better than their past. And that's an important thing.
Hey, Mike, I'm gonna throw a joke out there, bro. You have seriously graduated, and I'll say this, and I know you know more about this as an inside joke, but I remember going back to first meeting Mike, like us going out to communicate with client base, and what Mike didn't want to speak to anyone, guys. Like, so to be able to get on calls and be able to do this today, like I'm like, man, but that's no, I'm not surprised, because anything he get into, he kind of take off. And I was kind of at one time, I was that customer facing, that conducting and getting more clients and sitting down with them, and going back to what Gabe was saying earlier but more on the business side, not corporate, but talking that language where they can kind of understand them asking the services they need, and talking the language where you're not using too many technical jargons to kind of get off and communicate to them so they can understand and what they'll be getting as far as service and things like that.
I would even say also,
big kudos to you on that, bro.
I would even say also combined with that process of you pursuing work, having that mouthpiece like young Grizzly said, I think even pursuing a way for you to expunge your record and providing, and that being a part of your story, right? Just like young Grizzly was saying, he was saying, listen, they need to understand that who you were isn't who you are currently, and you providing to say, hey, I'm so different to the point where I'm even in the process of expunging my record, and this is where I'm at in the process. I think that's a very powerful, that can be a very powerful piece of your story as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that's something that I'm not gonna lie, man. I used to be on the other side, like, if you did wrong, you're always wrong type shit. And I definitely was like in the early days of, I used to talk in these spaces back in 2017. Some people talk about the Coliseum and stuff. And I used to say, like, he's always, that bad apple. And it's like, I've changed that, because you start to see that, a lot of these people do change, and then having these personal interactions, and even having a business partner that did time, fed time and all this shit. And like, that was my business partner in my salon venture. And it was, and he, like, you talk to him now, like, he's business minded. He's still a hustler nonetheless. He's just hustling a different product, and he's handling it a lot different too. That's it.
I mean, and the thing is, you surround. It's important. Like, even this group is powerful, man. There's a lot of positive brothers on, and you surround yourself around it all the time. And bro, honestly, don't let nothing stop you. Like, we're all talking computers right now, but I in the past I was able to make beats for people, and then I jumped into DJ thing, and I was able to DJ at free parties. Like, whatever you want to get into, bro, it's like just throw yourself into it. Like, and that's that's my terminology. I just throw myself into it. Like, what comes out of it, I continue to learn from things, and these are on different avenues. Like, but don't let anyone stop you. Like, if you need to go another route, Gabe said it not too far ago, and it's something me and Mike experienced. Like, we were corporate and we ran the consulting company, so we dealt with it from both avenues. Like, don't let anyone, if one avenue is trying to slow you down, look at the other one. Whatever you want to do, continue to work hard at that, and don't let no one stop you from what you're trying to accomplish. Even if you get your own client base, like, do that.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Oh, I was saying, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying, I really appreciate the insight and the words of wisdom. And yeah, that's why I definitely feel like very privileged to have a mentor like Young Grizzly, who is so diverse in skill sets and stuff like that, and that we could always touch bases, and he could give me plenty of different outlets, because I do have that kind of mentality where it's just like, I have to be relentless in what I'm trying to pursue, and there's always a spectrum of options, whether I have the ability to see it or not at this moment. All I have to do is find someone else who's walked that path, and they'll help me. So I definitely really appreciate all your guys' feedback and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as what I had as far as for the conversation and it around the resume.
Okay. Let me finish up this resume section, and then we'll answer some questions. We have a question from AO and from Chris Moe. That one from AO was way earlier on, and if he's still here, or if that person's still here, then thank you very much. I appreciate your patience, and we'll get that answered. And it's great because we got somebody like Gabe A to answer it. So here in this section, we have your work experience. This needs to be cleaned up in terms of flow and grammar and things like that. This is where if you have to hire somebody to do your resume and put it, what's it called? Do your resume and make it flow better, easier to read, and quote unquote nicer, then yeah, go ahead and do that. And then we get into, so prior non-technical experience. This is what I had to do. So for people that are really getting into IT, like me personally as a hiring manager, I don't give a flying fuck what you did. Like it's like if you did FedEx and all this other stuff, unless you touch the computer or something like that, it doesn't matter to me. But what it does matter to is like some of the HR people and some managers care about it, because what it shows is that you did work before. You're not just entering into the space. So now we can see maybe work history. You've been at companies for 2 years, 1 year, you know, but we can see that, hey, listen, maybe you had so like you worked in the same industry and now you're trying to make a change. You know, maybe you did schooling beforehand or something like that. So it's good to show a little work experience. Some people care about it, but it also depends mainly on what you're applying for. So that's one thing. And then after that, education certifications. I try to put my certifications a little bit higher up. In terms of my certifications, what I like to do, especially with CompTIA-based certifications, so that's your A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, and then there's quite a few others, even Linux Plus, which I have as well. I'll put that at the top in a nice block, and then I'll also put in the verification code. So if you have a certification, they should come with your ID or verification code. Then you can say, and it's a lot of people don't know. I see a lot of recruiters don't know about this, because recruiters are like call center people, to be honest. Like they just do outbound calls for a lot of like the first level of recruiting. But I'll put the verification code on there. And then with the verification code, they can actually go in to one of these portals and verify when you got that certification, and then if it's expired or not. That's another thing that I think is pretty big. So if you have your Cisco certification, it'll tell you information about that person. I don't think it tells the score. Gabe A, correct me if I'm wrong on that, if you know.
No score. It's just pass or fail.
Pass or fail. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it doesn't show the score. So even if you pass by 1 point, it doesn't matter. You still passed, right? So having that code or that number, especially with CompTIA, because a lot of these certs like A+, you used to be grandfathered in, and then now it's like you have to renew every 3 years. So it shows that you've renewed that cert or something like that, having that verification code. And you can actually find that on the CompTIA website and get all of your certifications off of there. Definitely you want to set up a CompTIA account so you can have all your certifications, get to them, reprint them if necessary. I have all of mine as PDFs, just in case I ever need to furnish them. But I like to have that verification code. So when they start asking you questions during the screening calls, or you know your initial conversation with the recruiter, they'll ask, hey, listen, is that expired or not? And I'll be like, yes, it's expired. And also you can check all my other certifications via this code. So I'll put expired certs on there because I'm not going back and doing it, because to be very honest, it doesn't mean I lost the knowledge. It doesn't mean my knowledge. It just means my knowledge is not up to date. And in some places, they're really strict about that, where it has to be up to date. And in other places, they'll be a little bit more lax. And then some places they'll be in between. They say, hey, listen, when you get this job, if you do go ahead and go forward with it, we need you to refresh that in 3 months, or within 3 months of you being here, right? So there's that. And then you can talk about, you know, especially if you want to fill out your resume a little bit more, you got your affiliations, things that you've done. Some of this stuff is, you know, this is nice, so to speak, right? And it just shows that you're a part of your community and you're giving, and maybe you help out other people. That's one thing. Volunteering experience, the same thing. But after a while, this stuff drops off. You don't care about your non-technical experience, and then affiliations, you won't care about that too much, unless so what affiliations you might do, because you might have another Freemason brother or something like that, or a frat brother or something like that, somebody that's a part of your same fraternity, and they might be like, oh, okay, hey, listen, yeah, you're a line brother or something like that. Or not line brother, because that's a person that passed with you. I don't know too much about frats, so those people that know about it, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably wrong. So there's that. And then the last section, experience. References. There we go. References. So for instance, I have it. This is kind of like my standard approach to it.
I'm sorry, really quickly, young Grizzly, I got to drop. Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh man,
drop that.
Oh man, dang! I wanted to get to that question. All right, man. Thank you. Appreciate you, bro.
When's the next time you're doing one of these?
Oh man, I don't know. It might be a part 2 at this point.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure if I'm gonna go past 3 hours, but yeah, it might be a part 2. If anything,
if you do a part 2, I'll keep on looking out. Yeah, I'll keep on looking out.
Yeah,
if you reach out to me, I'll try to join also. All right.
Thank you, man. All right, that was Gabe A with Struggle Security. Go ahead and check his channel out. Yeah. So this last section here, experiences. I usually like to get the first and last name, their position, and what I've noticed is recently, if you're getting senior level stuff, they want to talk. They want maybe 3 to 5 people in this section for in terms of references, and 2 out of those people should be at least a supervisor, somebody that was your manager or direct manager, just to see how you are as a subordinate / employee. And then I give the email and telephone if that person, and you always have to ask them first, if that person allows you to give out that information. Okay. So that's pretty much it for that on there. So guys, any thoughts about that? Jermaine, in terms of what you had to deal with recently? I definitely want to talk about some of your experience with resumes.
Yeah. Again, what you said as far as going through the resumes and making sure, grammatically it's corrected, and make sure that you kind of target. And these are some conversations, I give credit to you also, Mike, with, because again, as far as going back into searching for job industry, I've been out of it for a while. So things have changed. I would say things are also fast as far as the job market and what's out there. But just making sure, again, I've used an external resource to kind of get it done, and it's only for the simple fact that it still allowed me to focus on some things that I want to work on top of still pushing forward with getting that resume in place. I would recommend you guys to kind of look into it. Fiverr is a platform we've been using for a while when it comes to the resume. Have someone that does it all the time professionally look at it. There'll be word things, but just make sure that on your resume, at least you put in some of those key terms that's there. So as they may do some adjustment, those key terms don't go away.
Yeah. So we did have a question from AO, and then we'll move on to the next section of this. And I'm sorry for, Gabe A definitely graced us with his presence and gave us the perspective from a security side of it. So AO,
yeah, Mike, I'm sorry. What you may want to do with AO, just maybe see if you can get with Gabe on the side and see if you can get that question answer at least, and then just kind of forward it on the AO, so that way he gets an answer. As far as assist, I would say anything with cyber, honestly, just looking at the, even at my position of what I had to deal with and what's out there, cybersecurity, programming, database, like some of these things are like, top on the list as far as what's needed out there.
Yeah, and dealing with ransomware, which Jermaine has dealt with, I think 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, a few times. I mean, even had to sit down with FBI agents. Like I work for a financial institution, so it gets it gets to the point to where you deal with guidelines, you deal with I got it. I have it on the tip of my tongue, but every
regulations.
What do you say, Mike?
Regulations.
Oh, regulations. There we go.
Yeah.
You deal with those things, and they come in and they ask those questions, and they ask about auditing, and they ask everything around what you should have. So I think it's very important too, as far as AO. Like if that's something you want to get into, it's like they have a lot of reference and regulation books out there. It's if you want to kind of be on top of your game with that, I would say kind of be that person that's familiarize yourself with that, especially in that particular area you're getting into.
Yeah, and when it comes to cybersecurity and cyber ops certificates, that's great if you're going to be a SOC member, so Security Operations Center manager or member, or if you're going to be the security officer for a company or an organization, or even for a team. So you're always a person that looks at things from a security perspective, and also making sure that things are compliant. Learning about the different levels of compliance, or the different compliance. I guess the different compliances. I guess you would say. I don't think I'm saying that right, but you have compliance standards. You could say you have like HIPAA, PCI.
SOC compliant. Yeah, but you're saying it right. I think it's that everyone has. That's what actually the word I was looking for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's definitely something that you want to you like, that's definitely how the mindset you want to actually acquire when you're being a security member or of a team or something like that, is looking at things and scrutinizing things, saying, okay, what are the different vectors of attacks normally for X, Y, and Z? Like, for instance, okay, they want to open up another port. Okay, well, what are the attacks that you can have for that port? Are there any things that we can what is that port forwarding to in terms of the backend service? Is that service SQL? Is that service HTTP? Okay, cool. Is the server on the other end of that is getting getting the destination for that port forwarding? Are they secure? Are they fully up to date? Do they have certain configs in place so they don't allow certain data to be what's it called, queried or anything else like that, or retrieved, things like that. So like you might have something like if you only want to make sure that you have exact folder path for certain things. So you have to know the exact file name for something for you to actually get it. Otherwise, it'll tell you like forbidden, so you can't look at the folder itself and everything within it. And that's something that that keeps you secure, and it doesn't allow other people to see your entire file structure underneath a folder of images or assets, so to speak. And that's definitely something you want to look at with what's it called, a security mindset. So if you're going to get the Cisco CyberOps cert, I think it's something good to do, but is it along the lines of what you want to do? Do you have any other skills that could be that cert can be supplemental to make you look better on a resume, or better for a position, get you more money? What's the end goal of this? If it's just to learn about it, then you don't really need a cert for it. But if you want to get a higher paying job or something like that, or move into more security, yeah, that's good. But you're going to actually get that Cisco CyberOps cert. I think that I've never seen that cert, and Cisco's been doing a lot of work to their certification paths. But when it comes to this, they'll put out a lot of different certs now that are more specific and targeted, but it's usually along a path. And you usually always start with CCENT, at least, which they added that lower level, or CCNA. And then with your CCNA, you can actually branch out to CCNA security, wireless, so on and so forth. It used to be just CCNA, CCNP, CCIE. So yeah, definitely that's going to be something you're going to build on. But what's the overall goal? That's like, when you go to college, like the degree you get, what's the point of the degree you're getting? Things like that. All right. With that, man, I do want to move on to Red Pill Finance. What's up, brother? Appreciate you joining, man. Been seeing you in the comment sections lately. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. But I do appreciate the comments that you're leaving, things like that. It always helps to talk to somebody that's like a like mind or kindred spirit. Isaiah's Gaming, get exposed to different work environments and create that experience to put under your belt. Yeah. So like, if a new project shows up or something like that at your job, dive into it. Hey, I want a piece of that. I want to try and work on that. Don't close yourself in a certain box, and then also do stuff outside of work as well. I think Jermaine was talking.
No, I was gonna. So Chris Mo, I think also asked something earlier too about, I guess, IT skill set and where to start. And I think Mike earlier you kind of touched on some of those things earlier in conversation. But really good question. We may want to look back at.
Yeah. So I got it up on the screen. Chris Mo says, which IT skills should I start with if I want to be in it for a long time and grow, but have no degree? Should I work to get a degree? What's the Cash App? Cash App is across the bottom of the screen. That's gas money. I got to pay diesel fuel, but that's my problem.
Told you to get a 1,500.
Hey man, okay, listen. I am overcompensating for other things in my life. Okay, I got a big truck for a reason. Anyways, so in terms of where to start, that's why I asked the question: do you want to be somebody's manager? Do you want to actually do the work? If you want to be somebody's manager, get a degree. If you want to do the work, then get certifications, and eventually you could actually be somebody's manager anyway. So then, and if you want to get a degree, go ahead and do it. But understand, I think getting a degree is good for certain people, like degree, boot camp, the degrees, boot camps, and even certification courses are good for people that need structured ways of learning. If you're an autodidact or a self-taught person, you can go to Brad Traversy on YouTube, Free Code Camp on YouTube. What's the Coding Phase? He's another brother that's been on YouTube for years now. Elijah knows about him. There's a lot of people. Web Dev Simplified. You could do the same thing in financials as well. But I would tell you, if you don't want to go for a degree and you want to stay long term, you can just start picking up coding and start working with it. Start with different projects. I would say go to Udemy and start to find courses on a language that would still get you that structured but self-paced knowledge, non-institutional. Also, if Overdrive mentioned earlier, you can go. There's MIT courseware and then Harvard as well, where they have courses online for free from lectures that are probably like 7 years old in some cases. Like one of the guy that used to talk about Bitcoin for MIT or cryptocurrencies, I think he just got hired in the Treasury like a couple years ago or something like that, and he got the nod for it. So you're getting this information from people that end up in actual government that go after this stuff, and also there are people that are, I would say they're looked at as a great source of knowledge or masters of their field. So and in terms of long-term skills, I would say coding. And really, when you're looking at coding, understand it's all logic at the end of the day. The other stuff is all syntactic sugar or syntax. And then there's a couple other features that some languages have that other languages don't. And then also the way a certain language works. So you can get certified in certain languages to a certain extent. But it's really like that's something where even if, say, for instance, an institution says you can learn how to code in this language, by the time you get through it, all the stuff that happened in that language or that you learned is somewhat obsolete or old. And what they'll teach you mainly, or what it would be nice to teach you, is how, when you're coding, programming, coding methods, and what do they call it? they call it coding methods and coding patterns. There we go. Coding patterns. So if you have like certain coding patterns, like the MVC structure, which is model view controller, that's one that I use, especially when it comes to web or backend stuff and dealing with APIs. I'll deal with a model view controller. Your model is the stuff that talks to the database. Your view is all your stuff that talks to the front end or is sometimes the front end code. And your controller is all the stuff that talks between the front end and the what's it called, the model. So, and that's that, that's that in between. And you can split that up however you want. Anybody have any answers or a little bit more for Chris Mo there?
Yeah, just to add on what you said, I'm still going to say, like, continue education with it all. Just kind of adding on what you say, like, no matter what, Chris, you decide to get into, when you decide to choose this field, it's just think in mind to continue to that you're going to still be learning. Things change. Mike just said, like, even with coding, I can throw out something old out there that you don't see a lot around. Like, people think about when you go to school and they say, "Oh, you're gonna take a Python class." Yeah, but you might not be doing any of that when you go out there into the real world. But at least it gives you some type of foundation. A lot of the syntax is different, but if you get one, you can get the other, per se. It's something Mike has actually inspired me to kind of look into also. So I just would say, continue education to kind of add on top of that. Like, wherever you start at now, I don't think it's going to be a stopping point. Like, just continue, just keep a reminder so that you're going to continue learning as things change in technology.
Appreciate that. Anybody else want to jump in before we move on to dice profiles? All right. So one thing I want to show or talk about, and you guys can jump in at any time with this type of stuff and your thoughts and things like that. Red Pill Finance says currently being self-taught. Yeah, I mean, being an autodidact is very important because a lot of companies be like, a self-motivated learner or somebody that's self-motivated, able to handle themselves. Like, hey, listen, there's a problem, and you just take it and go from there. It's not like a ticket or anything else like that. All right, so Chris Mo, man, let me know if I answered it, and let me know if I answered it on the playback or anything like that. Or in the comment section. So, all right. So I'm going to share my screen. I'll show you my dice profile. All right. So here, I say always go to dice.com. I like dice.com. Some people like Indeed, Monster. Monster's a little bit on the older side now. Like I'm getting a lot of hits from Dice. Ton of hits. Glassdoor was where I found one of my current jobs. And I found it on Glassdoor, and I was able to, get information. I was able to get. Well, what I did is I found the job, and then I actually applied directly to the company instead of through Glassdoor because Glassdoor, for whatever reason, wasn't working out or something like that, or I didn't think I got to them or something. I think I couldn't apply, but I knew the company name and everything, so I just went there and applied. And then they called me like a month or two later. So. I put in like what I'm looking for or what I am, systems engineer, backend developer, right? Got my resume, got information about me in terms of my location and everything like that. This, in some cases, they use your location to determine how much they're going to pay you. It's a sad thing, but it's true. They're going to pay you a little bit more if you live in an area that has a higher cost of living. They're going to pay you less if you live in a lower cost of living area. My problem with that is, no matter what, my knowledge is not changing because I live somewhere else. I hate it, but it is what it is. And you can go back and forth with it. I don't nowadays because I do something else. Or I have my ways around that in terms of making more money. So in terms of skills, this is what I like to call keywords or is looked at as keywords, especially when they're searching for certain people or candidates. In the skills section, you can actually put in like Microsoft Windows, DHCP, DNS, LAN. Some of these things I might take out, right? But most of the things I'll keep. LAN, systems engineering, troubleshooting, Active Directory. I might even go in here, or somebody like Jermaine, he would put in Azure Active Directory and Active Directory. So he'll do like Active Directory and then Azure Active Directory, which is another skill. Pensive. Okay. Some places do it by cost of living, but some do it by cost of labor. Yeah. So, and the cost of labor is like, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Pensive, but cost of labor is more like, okay, this is based off of your skill or the amount of work that you're going to do. And cost of living is based off of where you live because things are cheaper. Bread is cheaper here in Southeast Georgia than it is in South Florida. You know, a lot of things are a lot cheaper here. Even gas and diesel and stuff. Well, diesel's kind of the same all around, but gas and other things. Depending on local taxes and all that other stuff. So they'll try and get away with paying you less. But yeah, so good point on that one, man. So I'll put in things like remote support, Cisco Nexus, monitoring. I got to take this out. Okay, I got it in there twice. Linux, data recovery, Office 365, Microsoft Exchange, being a backend developer. And when you're going into DICE and you're filling this stuff out, so for instance, I've done networking for 13 years, and then I would say it's current, right? Yeah, you and the panel answered my question and gave me great advice I can take with me. Hey, man, that's what we're here for, bro. So thank you very much, Chris Mo, for that. We're trying to help as best as possible. Sorry for if there's like any data problems, guys, because it looks like I'm just getting bad or poor quality or something like that. But anyways, moving on. So I might put in Active Directory. The way you fill this out on dice.com is the amount of time you've actually worked with it. So for instance, we're going to take out this monitoring because I don't need that one. Data recovery, I'm just being OCD and putting a capital R there. But where's the one? And I try to spell it how it's well known, like Node.js. You can spell Node.js without the period. You can spell it with a capital JS and a capital N or a lowercase n. So you can actually do it the stylized way if you wanted to or not. Bash scripting. So you can do bash, and then you can do bash scripting, and then you can also do bash. Where's the one? Automation, SNMP. So that's like, the simple network. I think simple network monitoring protocol. So knowing that, most people are going to look up SNMP, ICMP, things like that. Onboarding, working with Agile and Scrum. I can actually split those up into two separate things as well. So I can catch a little bit more in terms of the keyword. Working with Logic Monitor, message queues, and then, for instance, message queues or message brokers. But then I put in the actual tool that I've used, which is RabbitMQ, so Rabbit Message Queue, right? And then here, even working with Apple Voice over IP. Okay, here's a good example. This is the one I was looking for, PHP. I did PHP for 3 years in terms of coding. I do mainly Node.js and front-end JavaScript now. And then with PHP, I did that for 3 years, and I stopped as of 2018. So I did it from 2015 to 2018. So when you're filling this out, you can say, hey, listen, I've done it for 1 year to current, right? And then if I was doing Apple, like I did some Apple stuff for 6 years, but I really stopped doing it at 2018. Jermaine is the guy that, like Jay Boss is the guy that really gets into the Apple stuff. So that's one thing you want to be mindful of when you're doing all of this stuff. So I can do save changes. All right, cool. So all that stuff is updated. So went from 33 to 32 skills, so we're good. Ideal job, like systems engineer backend, desired salary. I could say, hey, listen, this is where I worked, and then my experience and everything else like that. So it's kind of the same thing, like founding partner in this job. What they'll also look for is concurrency. So outside network consultant, they'll look for concurrency in this, right? So 2010 to 2020, but also 2009 to 2019. So when it comes to something like this, they'll say, well, you work 2 jobs at the same time. Do you plan on doing this with our company? And you lie to them, tell them no. But, you could say, hey, listen, yeah, I've done it before, but, I don't need to do that. Or you explain what the reason for it was. Maybe you worked one as a night job and one as a day job. Some people don't like that, but then also a lot of places don't want to pay you the full amount, or they don't want to pay you a good living and working wage so that you can afford not just your bills, afford to survive, but you can actually live and thrive and do more. So they'll pay you just enough, which is why I hate some of the things when it comes to cost of living. But that's pretty much it for that section, and you get into your education. But I want to talk about what Pensive said. Cost of living is how much you should, or how much should we pay an engineer working in X to make sure their ideal, or make sure their deal is equal to people living in Y. So pretty much you're living there and it's equal to, like, for instance, living in rural Southeast Georgia, it's a lot cheaper, and that would be considered Y. But X would be like, most of their engineers are working in California or another state that has a higher cost of living, higher state taxes, but they don't want to pay all that. Like, if an engineer is making 150 grand in California, that's totally different than 150 grand in Florida, and way different than 150 grand in Southeast Georgia. And that's a big thing, because then that really dictates, okay, the company's budget and things like that. The reason they'll do things like that is just so they can save and then hire more people, and then of course protect their bottom line and make profits. All right, and then with social profiles, what I'll do is, like, you can have, in this case, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Make sure any one of these things that you put in personally, watch what you say on those. I probably wouldn't put my resume, I wouldn't put my YouTube stuff all the time on there. In some cases on my resume site, I do have it because I made that while I was doing an Obfuscate stream. But for the most part, like, I'll have my resume site and hope they don't click on some of my YouTube stuff, me talking about relationships, Black relationships and things like that. And that doesn't tarnish me in any which way. So even with some of my YouTube stuff, what I do have on there is the playlist for all the Obfuscate streams. So that's what links there. And then you just hope they don't click anywhere else, because some people would look at what we're saying in this space in the Black manosphere as misogynistic, scary in some cases, bashing, bullying, blah, blah, blah. But as you can see, even from this stream, we're just trying to help other brothers out in terms of what we see out there and define certain things. So some people take that differently and they're against it. So you got to deal with that. And then at the end of the day, also, fuck them, because guess what? They're not the only employer out there. So there's that part. All right, guys. Did you guys want to say anything to some of the stuff on DICE? All right. I don't know if you guys stepped away. All right.
Oh, no, I'm still here. No, it's I didn't even know DICE existed. It's really interesting. I was more so familiar with LinkedIn, but you're saying you were getting hit up for employment from DICE. I'm definitely gonna have to make one of those and check that out.
Yeah, DICE is I think a great site, great search engine, so to speak, when it comes to working in IT and all the types of other stuff. And with DICE, what's nice is that you'll get a lot of hits, a lot of like looks. The only problem I don't like with DICE is that sometimes you'll get a lot of hits and it'll be a lot of trash stuff. So your phone will be ringing off the hook and they'll be asking you, hey, can you do this, this, and this? But you have to actually, you're going to have to do your own filtering with that. And you have to worry about them trying to steal your information too.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering, just as like a side question, do you use a lot of Excel? Because I can use Excel, but I'm not really like that great with it. And I remember someone was mentioning needing to know certain financial things and be able to explain and talk about that stuff on the business side sometimes. So I was just sort of wondering about that.
Excel, yeah, yes and no. It's a tool for mostly like, not uninitiated, but it's a tool maybe for somebody that is a business analyst,
right,
or somebody in financial. And the only reason you would use a lot more Excel as a backend developer or developer of any sort is because you're exporting that data as Excel or CSV file or something like that. And maybe you have some information in there and you have to customize it for them. That's probably about it I can think of.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you may want to know some of that stuff though. And honestly, you want to know it based off of the job requirements or the task requirements. They have a lot of different libraries where you can export JSON data as CSV data if you wanted to. You know, like you have a JSON object that you got from an API, then you have to do some ETL stuff, so extract, transform, and load. So you extracted it from some API or a website, and then you have to transform some stuff in terms of like making sure all the names are in uppercase letters because that's easier to read. Because you know a lowercase L looks like an uppercase I. So dealing with that, and then maybe even formatting some certain numbers and normalizing number formatting. So a 10-digit phone number, adding dashes or parentheses to make everything look the same.
Right.
And then you do the loading, which is getting it all into the database. Maybe I think they have what they call forms. So first form, second form, or phases, and that's like the mutation of your data and stuff like that as it goes into your database or your data warehouse. So and then all that in reverse, how do you export it, and how does it go to an end user? Like you have a list of phone numbers and contacts and stuff like that, and you might be selling a list or something like that. Then you have all of this stuff move out, and you're going to use Excel for it.
Right.
So make sure it's formatted properly. All right, so let's get into searching. This is something that Elijah and I were talking about. And guys, I know this is an extended stream. If any of you guys have to drop off or go, please catch the playback. But I want to also show you guys how to like kind of search for jobs as well and what you can do. And this was a great thing that Elijah and I talked about yesterday during our Saturday mentor sessions. But let's go ahead and search for jobs. And let me move this tab over here. Okay. Oh, okay. Richard Dixon says, I had to do that recently. Created a script in Python that export data to Excel to compare the different naming structures the client is using, and then use that as a reference to create a lookup in a DB table. So you see how, and Excel is a reader more or less of usually XLS and CSV and other types of files that can be read by the Excel program. But a lot of the stuff that we work with in terms of back end and even front end, in terms of like JavaScript and stuff like that, a lot of stuff we work in is CSV or TSV files. So that's like comma separated values or tab separated values. And that's just like, a delimiter used to show that, hey, listen, this is a different column in a row. So like under the name column, you have it separated by a comma or a tab, and then you read that from there, and that's how the data is formatted. So you can be like, oh, okay, then it does this, or combine, or you can write code that combines all like rows, columns, things like that, and unique certain things. Okay, this is a good idea. Jermaine, if you're still there, I'd like you to talk about this too. What best practices for negotiating for salary? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I actually had the opportunity to do it in both phases, like at the beginning and in the process of, taking some of my employee and basically increasing their salary. But negotiation salary, I would say for one, if it's something where you're going into where you got quite a bit of experience in it, then out the gate, you can use that as your card to come in. Hey, I see you have a software development position that's there. I have such and such years. I've dealt with whatever syntax or programming language that you have dealt with. Like you can come in out the gate as that. I see you're offering whatever. Let's say as an example, you're offering 130,000. I just want to see if 140 and my standpoint can be fulfilled. Because of just because of what I know and what I can bring to your company, and then put all the benefits within it, what they'll benefit from just by hiring you and paying you that amount, which you've shown them that you're worth that.
Yeah, and another thing is like a lot of these jobs won't post what the job is quote unquote paying or what their budget is. If you're talking with a recruiter, they're usually going to tell you this stuff because it's contract work. So they might tell you $60 an hour is probably about 125, I think, 125K. I have to make sure. But 65 and then 70, you're starting to get into 130, 140K, right? So there's that. But then in some cases, you can look up industry standards for that position. Also, just like Pensive pointed out, cost of labor versus cost of work, or cost of living versus cost of labor. Um, that that weighs different. That weighs different from state to state. So you have to bring that into account. Also, websites such as Glassdoor, which I've used before, but again, if you want more calls, Dice will give you too many calls in some cases, but they'll tell you what the Glassdoor estimate is. Employer estimate sometimes because of Glassdoor, the way they run things. And you also have to use these different websites to get different information, or to get a different perspective, because Glassdoor, the way they work is if you want to be a part of the platform, you have to start giving us pros and cons about the places that you worked before, so it helps other people that come into the platform and it be of value to them, because now we have insider knowledge, pros and cons about management, about the job that you work, so on and so forth. You could talk shit about the company if you wanted to, or the lack of management or something like that. Dice, what's great about it's more of a search engine, and a lot more developers will be on here as well. And it's more of a search engine that allows your recruiters to search maybe even programmatically or get them more candidates. And then a lot of these job boards talk to other job boards, like your Indeed, your like Glassdoor will talk to actually Glassdoor and Dice will talk to people, other platforms such as Indeed, Monster, and some of the other big ones, right? But then what's nice about Dice that I've seen is this is a place for recruiters, contract work. Glassdoor is a place for people that there are some recruiters, but mostly the companies will post their stuff on Glassdoor, or even recruiters for said companies. So Liberty Mutual Insurance, they'll post their stuff on here, and then we could start seeing things more about that company itself. Where is it? All right, cool. So you can see rooms to go ratings. Jeff Seaman, the approval of the CEO. Would you recommend to a friend? You can see all rooms to go ratings, so you can see all their pros and cons from other people. Okay, no pros. I have no pros have been reported by Glassdoor community. Everything is a con. So maybe you don't want to work for them. So Richard Dixon puts in, I like Dyson. ZipRecruiter is good too. I will say LinkedIn might be the best. Yeah, okay. Some people swear by LinkedIn. Gabe talked about that earlier. I'm not a LinkedIn person. But there's a reason why LinkedIn is probably good, is because it's more business people. It's also, I think they cut out a lot of the BS with LinkedIn. So a lot of the stuff is, I guess, they don't allow some of the things that Glass or that a Dice would actually allow, or some of these other job boards. ZipRecruiter to me has too many people on there, and some hiring managers would just use a recruiter to do some of the initial calls, to the cold calls to potential workers, and they'll do all the cold calls and then get it to the hiring manager. All right. So how to search on some of these. First off, you have your search term, right? I want to be a Node.js developer. Now, you might just say Node.js. You might say Node.js backend. If you put in more words, you get less because it's more specific. Location, I keep that empty because now we have remote work and we can work from anywhere at any time, in some case, any time zone. I've had people talk to me about jobs where their company was international on multiple continents, and the team that they worked for was actually in like India, and they had to do their daily morning call for India would be 8:30 local time. Or sorry, 8:30 p.m. local time. So you'll have stuff like that you have to worry about or deal with. And sometimes you don't find out or think to ask that until you just experience it. You're like, what? I gotta be up at 8:30. Like, I'm going to bed at that time. And sometimes you're working in different time zones, but that's what you deal with nowadays.
I just had a quick question. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, just starting off, like as a beginner, I heard this. I wasn't sure if this was true or not. That like you're saying, work from home is really the new thing. But is it true that as a new person, if you're willing to go in the office, is that like a benefit, or do you think there might be more like opportunities as a new guy coming in, saying that you're willing to go to an office, or does it not matter?
I was watching something about with Bill Maher, and the guy was talking about men and how working from home is killing a lot of new talent. I preface it with that to say this. Yes, while normally in terms of human behavior, we're used to being in close proximity of people and talking with people. And then that's how certain conversations, tangential conversations, getting to know somebody, being a little bit deeper into that team, having a higher level of camaraderie is important, because now it's not like I have to call them. It's just pass by. I noticed they have a different color shirt on today, starts a conversation, or some of the nonverbal cues, such as like how the person smells and all this other stuff, is missed. Also, being closer to a person that is a mentor or a mentor-like, it's hard to get that tone across, because none of us on this have shown our faces. We may have pictures of our face, in Gabe A's case, or in my case, you just see my front yard, or you see my front yard, and it's like, you don't see me. You don't get to see the nonverbal cues, the facial expressions, or anything else like that. And that's one of the benefits. That's a little small things that they talk about, especially when they talked about the Me Too movement and how men didn't want to be, quote unquote, alone with women. And they were scared, and they wanted to be in public settings with them. A lot of things happen in terms of the stuff that you talk about, in terms of knowledge and knowledge transfer, happens in those intimate interactions. When I say intimate, I mean it's one-on-one. It's you talking with that person, non-sexual by any means.
Right.
You're talking with that person. You're vibing with that person. Now this older gentleman's like, man, I look at him like my son. He reminds me so much of my small nephew. She reminds me so much of my daughter or my wife, and things like that. And it's non-sexual. Hopefully it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go any crazy or anything like that. Especially that was the thing with the Me Too movement about men giving information to women. But you get pushed out of that. And then, of course, a lot of older people, when they talk about water cooler and talk and stuff like that, company I used to work for, they had a kitchen right in the middle. It was kind of like the heart of the floor, and people would, convene in there. They would congregate in there. How lunchtime, you'd hear this one loud lady. She'd be like, and it's like, it draws you in there. You want to start talking with her, having conversations, because now these conversations, once they talk to you on a more emotional and personal level, now they feel they can give you more information about their job and what they do. And that's one thing where if you worked in the office, that's where you get that benefit. But with that being said, motherfucker, you're gonna have to change. Like, I talk to people now, these motherfuckers, like, even if they work in the same city, they don't want to come into office. Like, right. I got shorts on right now, man.
I hear you. But yeah, see, that's another thing, because there's this other YouTuber, I think his name's Glendon Cameron or something. He's pretty good. Yeah, he was saying that, like, work from home is coming to an end, but that's not true, right? Like, it's just going to get bigger.
It depends on the industry. So they talked about that in banking. Jermaine, if you want, you could speak to this here in a little bit. But
I was waiting for you to finish up.
Okay, yeah. Jermaine has a great story about this and what he's going through and whatever. Jermaine, protect yourself and everything. But I don't want to talk about it because yeah. Anyways, but you know, a lot of developers, especially in IT, they want to stay home. They don't like you get so much more of your time back. I could wake up 10 minutes before my meeting and be on time. You know, whereas that used to be a 30-minute to an hour long commute. I'm saving so much on gas. That's why I have a big ass Silverado 2500 diesel truck. Because guess what? I ain't got to drive to work every day. Because if I did, I wouldn't be driving no 1500. I'd be driving a little Colorado or something like that, a little Chevy Colorado. I ain't trying no big ass truck. You might see me in one of them little smart cars, you know, with the gas prices now, right?
Yeah.
So you're saving a lot, and you can also do more. You know, you're tired less. You can have better naps because it's not a nap in your chair or your car with the AC. Now you're actually laying in your bed, and you can be a little bit more rejuvenated. Also, in some cases, they found that people were even more productive working from home because guess what? Their computer was always right there.
Mm-hmm.
It was so convenient to just jump back on the computer after dinner and get work done as opposed to staying at the office late. So I can go play with my kids and come right back to the computer. So there's pros and cons. If you're in the banking industry, different story. But if it's because I have to go in the office because the internet's better, fuck that. I personally have 2 internet connections. One goes down, the other one just kicks right in. Jermaine, I wanted you to talk on this too.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing. So, what you'll see also, like sometimes they won't add it to like a job preference, like far as a new job. Sometimes when you talk with like that HR, that person that's looking, they may mention the word culture. So, anytime you hear a word, you know, this company is family oriented and the culture based. That's more what Mike was saying earlier, where they want or they may indicate something like, you know, 30 or 50%, or they may say, you know, a few days in the office type thing, and that's just because the company is built off their culture. They want to see people. They do things. They interact and things like that. I'm actually at, and I won't say the name, actually a company that was kind of built off that too, like more culture based. I will also say it just depends on your position. Like, so I'm assuming like you guys are more developers. I don't really see a need for like a developer to be in office unless the company thinks they should be there. In most cases, Mike mentioned something about studies, right? Earlier about like most companies, I don't think it's going away, actually. I think most companies, from what they're seeing, especially in my current situation, they're seeing where they can actually save on overhead with getting something actually smaller because the employees are more productive being remote. Like work is still being done. But that depends on, to me, that shows off how great your IT department is, because if you have something that was built right, or you built out a system where that system operates no matter where you are, and it doesn't affect the company, you know, that goes to say, okay, hey, we have a structure where we don't need to have everyone come into the office to work. I'm sorry, so that sounds like someone's going to say something.
Yeah, I don't know if somebody said something and burped.
Yeah. No worries. But yeah, that's part of it. But I don't know. I don't really think it's going away. I do think you still have those companies that has what you call a culture base, and they want to have that more approach of seeing you, seeing those interactions, stuff like that. But for the most part, from what we've been seeing and what studies have shown, the companies, I'm going to agree with Mike, companies are more productive. I mean, including one I'm at now, employees are more productive. Work is still being done. Now, if you might have issues in some departments, right, where it's like, you know, hey, I'm having difficulty with the communication or difficulties with certain things, and they may require for that team. And I've seen that done before. But as far as IT, bro, it just depends on where you're at. If you had a position where you're dealing with moving parts, like, you know, you're a part of onboarding, you're setting up equipment and stuff like that, then yeah, you're going into the office because you're dealing with moving parts. But if it's something where everything is within a cloud base, you can access it from anywhere with whatever the security protocols that company gives you, then you don't have to be at the building. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that going into work is going to increase. I think that it's going to pretty much, it's showing companies how they're making money, but they can also save money also with overhead.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too. Two things. A lot of people are looking at their bottom line and how much they're paying in rent. And sometimes what they're doing is I can just pay I can pay the rent, I can pay the internet bill for all of my employees. Like I can give them some type of stipend. For instance, a company I work for, they actually give you $50 or $25. No, is it? I think $25 a check if you install like Microsoft Teams and email on your phone, your cellular device. So that and my bill is like $56 a month. So they pretty much pay my bill. In some companies, like that's a lot cheaper. Say for instance, you have like say 400 employees, right? Oh, you can see that? Yeah. Okay, cool. I wonder how. That's great. All right. I guess because it's over the window. Anyways, so say you have like 400 employees. Everybody's internet is say $65, right? Depending on the package they have. $65, that's 26K. But your rent for your building, and you don't even have to pay that 65. You could pay, say, $10, $20. In some cases, you could write that off business-wise as well by giving that little bit of a stipend. So $400 times $65, that's $26,000 per month. Well, what if your rent is in the 5 digits or more than that? You know, maybe your rent is in the 6 figures because you have, you know, a couple floors in an office building. Maybe you have the entire office building. And then you have to pay for internet, business class internet for that, and cooling costs and anything else that comes with it. I mean, all right, at this point, your rent might be $50K. Well, shoot, it's cheaper just to pay everybody, you know, pays, you know, a stipend to everyone's internet bill, maybe not the whole thing, and you'd be straight. You've literally just cut some of your monthly expenses, one of your largest monthly expense, in half. Now you're saving money. And Overdrive, I know you wanted to talk on that.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm just listening. But but yeah, even with I was thinking like, you know, the main reason why they started the whole work from home thing was COVID, and that's, you know, that's still going around. So it's, you know, it just makes sense that they would continue.
Yeah, well, what COVID did is accelerate it because you had larger companies like Twitter, some parts and groups of like some individuals, groups, teams, and Google, where people work from home or in different countries. The second part is not just the savings. The second part is now you have a larger talent pool. Now I can go across the US or to other countries and get people to work for me. And it's quote unquote normal, right? Like instead of having this person move to this state or what have you, I can cut all that out, and I can still have them as a knowledgeable asset, so to speak.
Right.
Now I have more places. I have a bigger pool to select from in terms of actual talent.
Right.
So why would I want to give that up just so you can breathe on? Like you can, you know, I can smell your cologne or see you at the water, you know, in the kitchen and stuff like that, or deal with that bitch in accounting, you know, that type of shit. You know, or that motherfucker John over there in sales. Like, I fucking hate that guy. He's always loud. He's always talking, blah, blah, blah. Nah, there's no John here at my house. I have my dog, which you guys have probably heard her snoring. You know, like, and you see my view. Like, that's like my real view. That's like what I look at. Like, you know, I'm looking to my right. That's what it looks like.
And it's a great view.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of benefits when it comes to this type of stuff. When it comes to work from home, that they're no longer willing to give up. Like Glendon Cameron, to his point, brother Ed talks about him, brother Ed from this space. And brother Glendon Cameron says luxuries once tasted become necessities.
Right.
You taste this work from home shit, bitch. I ain't going in no office.
Yep.
Hell to the no. But all right. So this is something Elijah and I talked about yesterday. Searching for jobs and searching on some of these job boards, and you'll see something like you see all these different job listings, right? Like, dang, okay, cool. I got some pretty cool job listings. This is shit right now. You need to refine this search, right? You're and like even with pay, like, all right, cool. First thing you always look for is pay. Oh, I don't want to make less than 100K, so I'm gonna go to 100K and I'm gonna apply that. See what we get. All right, cool. We cut down a little bit, right? But even if I go back, one thing I noticed is this job was posted 30 days ago. Guess what? Ain't nobody gonna answer that if you apply for that. If you go and then let me look at it. Oh, apply now. So for this apply now, you have to go to their website and apply. This job was active like 30 days ago, or put up 30 days ago. Trust and believe they've either hired somebody or it's not that big a deal, and this listing just hasn't expired. So be mindful of that. So, anyways, as I said, we're going to change our minimum salary to 100K. We can raise it if we want to from there. The posted time, I want to do the last 12 days. Now we got a shorter list. We only got one page, right? And then you may have to like increase this as well, just so you can get some more results. But then from here, I'll do things like I want the easy apply options, right? Because now I want to apply for as many jobs and make it as easy as possible on myself as I'm going through this. Because it might take 3 months to 6 months to maybe even a year, depending on your circumstances, or more. Richard Dixon can tell you about this. It took him a while before he actually got hired in tech because of some of the things that he went through. So it may take you a while, but you can really get burnt out. And I'm a type of person, I get annoyed by filling out a lot of resumes or a lot of applications and stuff like that. I don't want to go to your website and do it. Like if it's not easy apply, I don't care. Like I don't want it. Like you're going to ask me all the questions on my resume anyway. So why do I put all this stuff in these? You just get kind of jaded or actually really pissed about it. So I've been on the piss side. So call me entitled. All right. So all job types, you could do full-time, part-time, whatever. I usually do all job types. And then I put in the last day. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So it shortens up the list here. So you could put in last day. We'll say like last week. Probably get a little bit more. All right, cool. So 4 days old. This was put up 4 days ago. All right, this should still be active. Especially we're on Sunday right now, so that was put in most likely, a Tuesday or something like that. That's still active. You'll probably get some calls on a Monday. Then we have the easy apply option, which this is different depending on the platform. So you can, for instance, Glassdoor, you can have multiple stars and up, different job functions, seniority levels, all that other stuff. I usually focus on easy apply and work from home only. Now, it used to be a lot of easy apply stuff or just easy apply. Now you're seeing more work from home where it gets categorized properly. So seeing stuff where it's like 100% remote, so on and so forth. Now we're looking a little bit better, right? Then we start sorting, right? So now I want the most recent. Boom. Keep. I'm going all the way down this list. Easy apply, easy apply, easy apply. Right? Now, like I have a decent sized list. It's going to take me an hour or two to go through. It's all easy apply. It's within the past, week or so, right? So it's still recent, still fresh. It's meeting my salary criteria. It's not exact by any means, right? Because we don't know exactly what this employer or recruiter has to offer. Because the recruiter has to make a little money, right? So we have all these things. We have like two different pages here of results. And we could do this even on Dice. Node.js developer. I want remote only. In this case, last 7 days in terms of posted. I can do different employment types. Employer type, direct hire, recruiter, or other. You might want to do direct hire because you don't want to deal with a recruiter and all the other BS. But sometimes you have to go through a recruiter to get to a direct hire. There's been a lot of times where I applied for a contract job or in some of my side projects, and they wanted to hire me directly. Like they said, hey, we like this guy. We don't even want to do a 6-month contract. We want this guy to work for us today. And then easy apply. Yes. So you'll start to see where a lot of these websites are the same. They have the easy apply. They have the same like options. And it's just like working with Microsoft Word or certain browsers. There's always a file menu. There's always a print. There's always a save button, blah, blah, blah. So now we have a decent list here. We have our filtered results. And let's just see if we have sorting available. And one thing you want to be careful with is turn on IntelliSearch alerts today. So they're going to start sending you a ton of emails. That's good when you first start out because then you'll start getting a lot of jobs. It'll be pushed to you. You'll get calls and you'll get a lot of alerts. But after a while, it gets you just get pissed. And it's just I don't want to deal with this. So then you can save these jobs. They usually always have that function, or you can save and categorize them. Email certain jobs to you if you want that as well. But now we can start going ahead and applying for different jobs. Node.js developer. In some cases, we can see the $60 plus salary. So this is how I figure out the conversion from hourly to salary. $60 times 80 hours, because you usually have 80 hours in a paycheck, depending on how they pay you. Because sometimes they might do semi-monthly, which is, 2 checks a month on the 1st and 15th, or, the 15th and the 31st, whatever they want to choose, And then, so 80 hours, I always do it this way. And then you have 26 pay periods. That's your usual getting paid every other week, right? If you do it semi-monthly, it's usually still about 2 weeks, or it depends on the length of the month. And then it'll vary as well. So if your salary and you're getting paid every 2 weeks, it should be the same all the way through. You might have more than one check in a month, so you can't do it on a monthly basis. You're going to do it because you're going to have 26 pay periods, versus if you're doing it bi-monthly or semi-monthly, it'll be 24 pay periods for the year. But 80 hours every 2 weeks, so that's 40 hours a week, times 26. So that's your amount of pay periods. So you're looking at $124,800. Round that up, you're saying $125K. Now, when you're working with contracts, they'll tell you things like, there's a conversion, so to speak. And the conversion with contracts is they already calculate that you might take 2 weeks off for either sick or vacation time. So that conversion, it takes out, say, you get paid on 25 weeks, or they'll give you a number based on 25 weeks as opposed to 26 weeks, right? So that 25th or that 25 pay periods, that takes out that last pay period, which is 2 weeks or 2 weeks worth of pay. And you only see, you see less than that, right? So for instance, in this case, that would be 60 times 80 times 25. So that'd be 120K. So that's one thing that I learned, and I want you guys to understand that, and I wanted to point that out. Looking at the job description, pretty simple, nothing crazy on this one. The goal is to find someone who would be interested in becoming a future FTE of the Bernard Group. This would be 6-month contract to hire. The actual conversion might take longer. So this right here, again, is contract work. Again, Dice is good about contract work. Yeah, Overdrive, no problem. Guys, I know it's getting a little bit long. We're going to end this stream and tie it off here pretty soon because I'm getting hungry and cotton mouth a little bit. But you guys can always catch the playback and stuff like that. as well. All right, so 100% remote. Prefer Minnesota based. We'll consider folks within 4 to 5 hours or so in case they had to come in for meeting event once a quarter. So some companies want you to, even if you're 100% remote or mostly remote, they may want to meet you. And again, that goes into who are you as a person in terms of culture and all this other stuff and keeping that stuff intact. But a lot of that stuff is just fucking human nature. They want, they want that human connection with you and the person that they're working with, that they're paying, that they're dealing with on a regular basis. But then they find out that in person, you're a total slob. You don't wear deodorant, and you may have taken a shower 3 weeks ago, So it may not be good for you. And then some people have social anxiety as well. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But when you're looking through these type of things, you can tell this is a recruiter. So contact the job poster. You might want to do like an apply now here. So we can go through this. And this is very easy. So this one is very easy, right? Like, all right, I got my resume and then cover letter. And then I can upload a cover letter. I don't have a cover letter personally because everything is pretty much in the objective area. So that I consider my cover letter. Also, I like to make my resumes no longer than like, say, 3, maybe 4 pages. I remember one person told me she actually dealt with a person that had like a 26-page resume. And I was like, what the fuck was that about? And nobody's reading all that shit. And it's crazy. The recruiter was like, yeah, it was crazy. And it was full. It was a full body of work in terms of what that person did, So sometimes you have that. In tech, you don't have to worry about that as much. Same thing goes here. The easy apply for Glassdoor. You click on it. You just put in your first name, last name, email, phone number, choose the resume. You can choose a file. Sometimes they allow you to choose from the resume you already have uploaded. But then you just put in your information and you continue. In some cases, they'll ask you questions like, are you, what's your race? What's your, are you disability? Are you, do you have a disability? Are you a veteran or anything like that, or a protected veteran as they call them, right? Sometimes they do that mainly so they can fill a quota. So for instance, when I talk about like, being black in IT and applying as a white person, like, I don't know who sees it, but it's like the race question to me doesn't make much sense anymore, especially as we're becoming more of a homogenous society where everybody's, after a while, we're all going to be mulattoes in a sense. There's going to be far less white people. They've already started to collapse even black people into people of color. So that's your Mexicans with melanated skin, your Peruvians, your Dominicans, your Jamaicans, now you're just people of color, and that's also your people that have mixed or intermingled, your Japanese and Haitian or Jamaican, what's it called? That mixture, if you will, pretty babies, like you're making pretty babies at this point, but now are you black? Are you Jamaican? Are you African American? No, you're a person of color now. And soon the entire nation will be persons of color. So just think about that in terms of dynamics. So when they start to ask you things about race, one thing I do is at one point I said, you know what? And I'm talking to Elijah about this yesterday. I said, you know what? What if you do find out that I'm not a white person? Like, why am I not getting picked for these jobs? Is it because I'm black? And I was like, you know what? Let me test this out. And I'm not going to lie. I think I started to get a little bit more like, I got a little bit more in terms of calls, because you start to see at higher levels of IT, consulting, and all this other stuff, or jobs, white collar work, there's not too many people of color. There's just black people, or there's just white people, and maybe Hispanic white people or something like that. You might see like 1 or 2 black guys, on a team, and that's it. And after, like, depending on that black person where they came from, they might hit you up like, yo, what's good? You drink Hennessy? And then, like you start to politic and talk from there. So you'll be very surprised what happens, when you see another black person on the team and you like, oh man, one of my people. Jermaine, you want to say something?
Yeah, when you named that position in the drink, I was like, yeah, you go right up my alley.
Right.
But no, but honestly, Mike, definitely correct. It's not a lot of us in management, even at my position or even at a senior level. I mean, at the group I'm in, the company I work for, when we go into the room, it's only 2 out of 20, 30 something people.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 2.
Yep. I mean, think about that. I mean, you have a lot of black business owners and so on and so forth, but in the corporate world, like we can be as entrepreneurs because that's a little bit more personal and you're dealing with the client. It's almost like a one-to-one relationship. But in the corporate, more structured environment, like you start to see the bias and how true it is, whether you like it or not.
Honestly, I struggled with it at first, but because it's a different language sometimes. And Mike, I'll tell you about this sometimes. Like, it's a different language, right? Or I'm not gonna say language barrier, but everyone interprets or deliver what they need to deliver a little differently. And I came to the mindset that just for me and what I'm representative in this case, I just remain and stay myself rather than just try to adapt. Because as far as the work, like I said earlier, the actual work that needs to go in or that needs to happen, that's the part that's most important.
Yeah, and like a lot of people don't see that, and they're like, a lot of people don't see that. It's not the first thing they see. They just see, and sometimes, honestly, people talk about white supremacy. I've said this a while back, and in this space, there's really no more white supremacy. It's more, it's not as overt. I will say, it's there, but it's more like white preference. Not everybody has to practice white supremacy. In some cases, yes, it is ingrained or baked in, right? There's that. But it's a lot of white preference. And, with the, mixture of, with what's it called? Anti-segregation or integration, I should say. Black kids growing up next to white kids. Now you're starting to see, you're starting to see the effects of that, the long-term effects. But really now you're starting to see white preference where it's like, okay, I apply as a white guy and I can make it because of how I talk and everything. But, it's sad, but it is still true. Whether you want to call it supremacy, I say preference now. But either way, that stuff is still true. It's still in there. I want to say it's a lot less. They have laws against it, but that does not mean it doesn't exist. And, black in IT, you got it. You can't not see it just because you made it. But it's just crazy where it's just like, you might be the only one on the team, man. Might be the only black person on the team. It's wild shit.
Yeah, Mike, that's why I say it goes so hard. I mean, Richard just hit it on point though with the other coaches you normally see. He put whites, Asians, Indians.
Yeah.
What you particularly see at within the career that we're in. But yeah, I mean that's why when I see it, and you see it all the time, even when you go travel and talk to other colleagues, it makes you it just gives you a reminder, like you gotta keep pushing and keep on pushing and motivating your people to hey, let's strive for these goals, or let's have we have people in certain positions where we can start seeing more of us, because we're more than capable of those roles. But as you said before, their preferences is we're not high on the list.
Yeah, and Red Pill Finance brings up, so if you have dreads, do you feel like they will look at you different? Yes and no. So it also even just the stereotype that comes with hair and stuff like that. What I've seen, even myself, I have dreads now. I don't always show it in every meeting. Sometimes I'll show it in like when I'm talking to external team members or from other companies, I'll put on a beanie or tam if you're like, Jamaican tams. But I'll put that on over my hair, and I used to just have like a big fro, so I just wear my tam. But they don't say anything about it. You could say it's religious. You're seeing a little bit more relaxing on that. The biggest thing is, do you look quote unquote professional? Is there anything about you that sticks out? It's kind of like tattoos, face tattoos, piercings, and all that other stuff. Some of that stuff is still discriminated on, and really, it doesn't have anything to do with your work. It's just how you look as a person. Oh, sorry, it doesn't have a lot to do with your work. You're starting to see people that are high functioning weed heads, and some people in some industries, man, you could just tell you got to smoke weed or do like. It's crazy because they could look at you for your exterior looks and your hair, but there's motherfuckers that are on some pills just so they can maintain focus. Think about that. But you can't have dreads. It's wild shit. It is what it is. Brothers got to accept that until we have some powerful black nations on par with everyone else, most definitely. And that's kind of one of the benefits of what men are doing now, where they're going to other countries and, in a sense, colonizing other countries. Your Brazil, like Black Americans especially, and even people from the Caribbean. But we're going to all these different countries, and we're getting these higher end jobs, or even bringing back money to our own countries. Or making a way as, like, say, a Black American, a person that has a long lineage here in the U.S., where they go over to some places like Ghana or Nigeria, and they bring over first world thought patterns, so to speak, and ways of doing certain things, and start to really manage and grow those local areas. And next thing you know, guess what? From top to bottom, it's predominantly Black. And then the game kind of switches on that. You're seeing a lot of Indians do that, or people from India, I should say, do that, where they're coming from India and they're actually coming to the U.S. Richard, you mentioned this earlier. They're coming to the U.S. and getting a ton of jobs here that are higher level, higher paying. And it's crazy because Black people fought for those jobs so that they can actually, Black Americans especially, your FBAs and ADOs, they fought for those jobs and civil rights just so some person from across the other side of the globe can come in and get those jobs, while Black people are underrepresented in those positions still to this day. Kind of crazy. It's freaking wild, especially when you even see like people from from countries in Africa come over here and then get some of these higher level engineering jobs. It's kind of crazy, man. I cut mines, but I'm growing it back. Yeah. I usually just wear a beanie, man. I have a tam, and I wear that over my hair. My hair is a mess right now. I think I want to say that's it, man.
Hey, Mike, I would add, when you talk about the dreads and people with tattoos, I guess you gotta, with us as Black people, you gotta work on changing that mindset of how people perceive it, right? Because if you talk in a group full of different nationalities, right, and you throw in that pot and say, hey, here's some look stereotypes, like, and they talk about, like, oh, here's the avatar with tattoos and dreads. It's like, what's the first thing you think about when you see the avatar?
Yeah.
And then you might get comments like, a ball player, basketball, football, rapper, this and that. Like, so it's, to me, it's like, if you got more people, because there's nothing really wrong with it. I just think that more people who have it are involved in different things. Like, so if you have it where, okay, it's not like it doesn't exist. It's just at a really low percentage. If you have more people that's like, hey, I like to wear my head and twist it up and have dreads, but I also like technology. If you have more where it's becoming more common, then I think that the look at the representation of it will be looked at a little different. But
Yeah,
I just think if you got just more people that have that's involved in different things.
I mean, think about it. You know, you got people that are coming in as biologically male, but they said they're trans. You know, and that doesn't get looked at the same way. It doesn't get looked at as being a sexual deviant. It doesn't get looked at as being negative because for them, it's their normal. So, for instance, why would a black person be looked at as negative for having dreads, you know, for having tattoos and things like that?
I
Now,
think that's another series you need to have. That's a deep conversation.
yeah. And listen, stereotypes exist for a reason. It is a way for human beings to, and I'll stop sharing my screen. Essentially, with dice.com, if you just choose next, like I choose next for this, I pretty much let's review. I just put in your resume and apply. And somebody will probably call me tomorrow and I'll be like, no, I was just on a stream. So, but essentially, I just applied for that job. And that's how easy it is to apply for certain jobs and certain for certain job boards. So I did want to show that. But in terms of in closing, man, yeah, that is a deeper conversation. You know, how is somebody that is you know, biologically one way just saying, hey, I'm now a unicorn or something else, and then that's more acceptable than saying, hey, listen, I just think of my body as a canvas or art. Now there's a reason behind that, but even trans people get discriminated as well as being sexual deviants, as maybe like especially a trans man trying to be a woman, he may be in some cases seen as a pedophile in some cases or what have you. So these things, you know, everybody has their shit to deal with, so to speak. But we do have to, you know, fight against that individually by doing one or two things in terms of how we approach certain situations, what we do to talk to people, how we talk to people, having that charm or charisma, having that story to tell, so on and so forth. And that's like those are some of the things that you can use as your sword and your shield, so that you can actually fight, to get into IT, so to speak.
For sure. And I just want to add one thing in there, just as far as getting back to just the overall message, what's going on. I've been pretty quiet during this time, but I've been actually applying what's being said. Me and Grizzy, like I said, he is my mentor, and we've been going over a lot of these things. So I didn't have much to contribute as far as words or addition as everyone else might, but at the same time, I was following along and applying the things. I think that's a constant that a lot of you guys who would be looked at as mentors, I think that's the concept that a lot of you guys look at as mentors. Do what you guys are illustrating through this conversation. Hey, find your unique advantages. Do what you need to do. Be hungry. Figure that out. So I just want to add it. It was a way that I capitalized on that even during this conversation. When Grizzly was doing those things, I was making sure I applied while still listening, while still having my thing up. So I just wanted to add that in there as someone who's, like I said, in the mentee phase, don't have a job yet, trying to get one and stuff like that, and just showing how I'm using the concepts from guys who are already in the industry and applying them in real time.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Well, one thing about red pill finance, like one thing we have to correct is it's I cut mines. Like mines are things that are in the ground, so you have to take that S off. So like listen, you're already black because of your grammar. Look at that, bro. I'm already taking you, like, as a hiring manager. I'm taking you out, bro. Just telling you, I'm just fucking what you do. But but that's the things that we have to fight against, man. Like somebody could look at your grammar and be like, oh, stereotypical black person, we can't fuck with him anymore. Like, let's get him off the, let's shorten this list up, and sadly, man, that's the truth. That's what happens. And that's why, like, even if you have a resume using a third-party service, when I ran my hair salon, people would talk about redlining and all types of other shit. And it's true, that stuff happens. But at the end of the day, I have money to invest and I want to invest in a business. I'm not going to let that stop me. So what do I do if I have permits to run to X, Y, and Z place? I get a general contractor, maybe of the same race for the city, or somebody, or he knows somebody, right? Maybe it's a predominantly Hispanic city like Miami, or well known for it, I should say. And then I get maybe a general contractor that's Hispanic or has certain ties or connections. And then my permit runner is a Hispanic person or a white person. Like, there's ways to get around this bullshit. It is bullshit. You have to do more work because of it. In some cases, it doesn't exist and it's not a big problem. But in some cases, it's there and you're going to have to deal with it. Our job is to really circumvent that. Okay, I'm glad you took that as a joke, Red Pill Finance. But yeah, like, they'll find a way to like discount anybody, like, just because of just simple grammatical mistakes or the way that you talk, but the same, all that is just a vector of attack that you're going to have to cover yourself for. And even if you're a white person, man, sometimes you're not getting the job because you're a white person, because we already got too many white people. Now we got to get more people of color and have a better representation of these certain people at these levels, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So, hey guys, man, any closing thoughts from anyone here on the panel as we close this up? Because I got a headache, or I got a food headache and I'm hungry.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just say thanks and just really appreciate the time y'all took again. Hopefully I can keep in contact with you guys and it's gonna keep growing and building and moving forward. So yeah, just thanks again.
Oh man, no problem. Overdrive, brother.
Yeah, Overdrive, Elijah, and Mike, again, thanks for having this platform and allowing us to get together and speak. I mean, these are things, especially around this time, that's going to help, because I think at some point, no matter where we at, no matter our position, no matter where we at, we can all help each other out in some aspect of things to keep pushing each other forward and keep motivating each other. So, guys, it's great meeting you guys. Hope we have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Definitely. You too. Thanks.
Yep, same to all you guys too. I definitely enjoyed meeting you guys. Also, again, Grizzly's working with me as a mentee. So if we do have a part 2 or any other live streams I can do, I'm definitely an open book, and I'm going to share my story. And as I develop further on my journey, whether it takes me a month, 3 months, a year and a half, whatever it is, I'll definitely be open to sharing that. And hopefully, with a combination of you guys, be able to help some brothers out and get in the industry for sure.
Hey man, I want to thank all of you that joined here today, joined in the chat. Those that are actually going to watch the playback, I hope it was helpful to you as well. Drop something in the comment section. I'm usually good about commenting and talking back to people. I definitely want to give a big shout out, man. Like, I got a freaking $50 Cash App, bro. That's wild. Like, dude. All right, it says nobody. Okay. But hey, listen, man, I really do appreciate you sending that Cash App, man. Like, $50 is a lot. I don't do this for the money. I'll put the Cash App there. I'll take money from you. But at the end of the day, my biggest thing is still helping brothers out, helping brothers with pattern recognition when it comes to a black man in society, black men in relationships, and then of course now, and there's always black people in IT as well. And that's our biggest thing man, is that we want to help one another get to the next level. And, I just really thank a lot of people that have shown up here. I appreciate the Cash App. That's really big to me. I don't really get Cash Apps like that, and I don't really get them that big. Shout out to people like Gold Professor, Aquatechie, and others that have given me Cash Apps in the past. So I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate, my own friends, Jermaine, my brother, and, friends like Miguel here. And go ahead and follow his channel too. He does a lot of stuff on Twitch, and he has like a whole streaming channel and everything else like that. So definitely follow him and check him out. Helmet Chili, gems freely given throughout this stream. Gold. Yeah, most definitely, bro. I personally, Helmet Chili, I find that a little bit disrespectful. I prefer platinum. Call me bougie, whatever. But no, man, I appreciate that. And I really what I really loved about this was, the guys that are entering and then the guys that have been in there are all giving information and talking about this and gaming one another up. So definitely go ahead and share the stream to other people that could find this useful. And with that, man, hey, listen, man, I appreciate it. And I appreciate everything you guys do. And I love you all, really do. I really got love for all you guys. And, as we go into 2023 and go into, the future, so to speak, let's make sure that we up our game and stay on the right side of things and, stay above all the BS that is coming that we all have to watch out for, in terms of food, gas prices, the economy, everything else. there's going to be a lot more things, a lot more people, zombies, so to speak, that are going to be attacking you financially, physically, mentally. And we have to make sure that we put ourselves, we equip ourselves with the right things so that we can survive what's happening and, you know, get past the quote unquote dark ages. All right, guys. Peace.
All right, see you. Thanks again.
Yeah, no problem.